Chapter 861. Fang Chen's body was constantly trembling. Even his powerful sword body could not withstand the cold qi of the bead. Even the golden heart had dimmed. However, Fang Chen did not want to give up when he was only one step away from obtaining the bead. Right, let's try the true meaning of void. Fang Chen's mind flashed and he instantly displayed the true meaning of void. Crash. Fang Chen's body instantly disappeared from the Jade Moon wintry pond. In the next moment, Fang Chen appeared in front of the bead. In an instant, the extreme cold qi invaded Fang Chen's mind. His sword spirit was directly frozen. His soul could no longer hold on. Fang Chen's eyes turned white. At the most critical moment, Fang Chen's hand struggled to reach out and grab the bead. Suddenly, the bead's luster dimmed. Fang Chen fell into a coma and lost consciousness. At the same time, a ripple appeared on the surface of the aquamarine frosty pond, which eventually turned into a giant wave. At this moment, Luo Hong's face changed when he saw this scene. What's going on? Luo Hong's heart was in turmoil. What was going on with such a huge movement in the Jade Moon wintry pond? Suddenly, Luo Hong felt that the cold qi in the Jade Moon wintry pond was gradually disappearing. How is this possible? The cold qi in the Jade Moon wintry pond was extremely tyrannical. How could it dissipate? What is Brother Fang doing? Luo Hong hurriedly asked. Crash. The ripples in the Jade Moon wintry pond gradually dissipated. Finally, the Jade Moon wintry pond regained its calm. However, after this huge change, the cold qi in the Jade Moon wintry pond had completely disappeared. It was no different from an ordinary pond. Luo Hong's soul instantly entered the Jade Moon wintry pond and found Fang Chen floating in the water. Brother Fang. Luo Hong shouted and directly pulled Fang Chen out of the Jade Moon wintry pond. At this moment, Fang Chen's body was trembling. The cold qi had invaded his body and even his soul was shaking. Luo Hong immediately urged his concept of fire to help Fang Chen dispel the cold qi on his body. What Luo Hong didn't know was that while he was expelling the cold qi from Fang Chen's body, the cold qi in the latter's body was also dissipating on its own. The cold air silently flowed out of Fang Chen's body and finally entered the bead in Fang Chen's hand. 2 hours later, Fang Chen's expression finally returned to normal. At this time, the cold qi in his body had been completely expelled. I'm not dead. Fang Chen opened his eyes and whispered when he saw Luo Hong. Brother Fang, are you all right? Luo Hong hurriedly asked. Fang Chen shook his head and said, I won't die. Fang Chen wanted to get up, but he found that there was no trace of strength in his body. It was as if he had been sucked dry. Brother Fang, what happened just now? Luo Hong was very puzzled. I also don't know, said Fang Chen. The cold qi in the Jade Moon wintry pool has completely disappeared. It has now become an ordinary pool, said Luo Hong. Fang Chen's heart shook. He looked at the bead in his hand, a myriad of thoughts running through his mind. With a thought, Fang Chen put the bead into his spatial ring and began to recover his strength. Not long after, Fang Chen recovered his strength. At this time, the dim golden heart also gradually recovered. After the golden heart recovered, Fang Chen's self-healing ability instantly shone. The injuries in his body were recovering rapidly. Just an hour ago, Fang Chen hadn't had the slightest bit of strength. But now, he was alive and kicking. Seeing this scene, Luo Hong couldn't help sighing. You really are abnormal, said Luo Hong. Fang Chen stood up. His strength had returned to normal. He stared at the Jade Moon wintry pool, his heart shaking. If his guess wasn't wrong, the bead he had obtained should be the core of the Jade Moon wintry pool. After he put away the bead, the Jade Moon wintry pool had become an ordinary pool. Could it be that the extreme cold qi is contained in the bead? Fang Chen thought to himself. However, he didn't plan to test it for the time being. Once he opened the bead and couldn't control the situation, his life would be in danger. Hey, Brother Fang, you broke through. At this time, Luo Hong noticed Fang Chen's aura and was overjoyed. Fang Chen nodded. I broke through by luck. That's great. Brother Fang has broken through to LV5 of the true martial realm. His fighting strength has probably surpassed mine, said Luo Hong with a grin. If he cooperated with Fang Chen, as long as they didn't meet a true martial realm expert whose strength was too abnormal, they would be invincible. As soon as they entered the 5-star secret realm, they had already killed an important disciple of the God Destruction Temple. Let's go. Not long after, Luo Hong and Fang Chen left the canyon. The two of them had gained a lot, especially Fang Chen. Not only had his Dharma idol broken through to the Earth stage, but his cultivation had also broken through to LV5 of the true martial realm. Most importantly, he had obtained a mysterious bead. Although he didn't know the specific use of the bead, Fang Chen felt that this bead was extraordinary. At this time, in a wasteland somewhere, a black-robed man with a scar on his face was very frightening. His body was full of the smell of blood. According to the aura of Li Bai's life slip, the place where he died should not be far from here, the black-robed man muttered to himself as he looked ahead. Then, the black-robed man flew into the air. The black-robed man, who was flying at high speed, suddenly saw Fang Chen and Luo Hong, who were walking quickly. People from the 5 Elements Palace, the black-robed man's eyes flashed as he said softly. In the 5 Elements Palace, the only disciple who could kill Li Bai is Luo Hong. The black-robed man thought for a moment and identified the culprit. Then, his body flashed and he landed in front of Luo Hong. Luo Hong, were you the one who killed Li Bai? The black-robed man asked coldly. Fang Chen and Luo Hong were walking when they were suddenly stopped by the black-robed man. Fang Chen was a little surprised. Assassin Mo Ying. Seeing the black-robed man, Luo Hong's expression changed slightly as he said in a low voice. The black-robed man in front of them was Assassin Mo Ying of the Blood Moon Assassin Organization. He was very strong and had a shadow-type true meaning, so he could often kill people without them noticing. Most importantly, the black-robed man's cultivation had reached LV7 of the true martial realm. Luo Hong glanced at Fang Chen, as if asking something. Fang Chen blinked, indicating that Luo Hong should not panic. Mo Ying, your Blood Moon Assassin Organization's reach is too far, Luo Hong said coldly. Tell me, were you the ones who killed Li Bai? Mo Ying did not answer Luo Hong's question. Luo Hong did not speak, staring at Mo Ying. Seeing this, Mo Ying laughed eerily, his body full of killing intent. Good, very good. Li Bai called me brother, but he was killed by you after entering the 5 Elements mystery realm. You will all die. Mo Ying laughed eerily. Fang Chen and Luo Hong looked at each other, and suddenly a vast aura emerged around them. Fang Chen and Luo Hong chose to strike first. Luo Hong used the 5 Elements sword technique, while Fang Chen burst out with the aura of LV5 of the true martial realm. Vast spiritual qi constantly surrounded the void. At the same time, the star-concealing sword appeared in Fang Chen's hand. Black flames constantly jumped on the sword. Go! Following Fang Chen's loud roar, the two of them immediately launched their fiercest attacks. If Fang Chen had not broken through, he would have naturally fled when he saw Mo Ying. However, Fang Chen had broken through, so their fighting strength had soared. Even if they were facing Mo Ying, they could still fight him. You're courting death. Mo Ying laughed eerily, and 2 long swords appeared in his hands. Mo Ying's wrists shook, and the 2 swords constantly danced. Boom 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 boom, Mo Ying's shoulders hit Fang Chen and Luo Hong's swords. Crack! Fang Chen and Luo Hong joined forces, and their fighting strength was close to Mo Ying's. Mo Ying's 2 swords were instantly forced back. Yes. At this time, Mo Ying realized the strength of the two. Now, you will die even more. As soon as Mo Ying finished speaking, his figure disappeared like a ghost. You dare to show off in front of Brother Fang? Luo Hong sneered. With Fang Chen's powerful combat strength, Luo Hong was very confident as he sneered. Fang Chen did not care about Mo Ying's shadow true meaning at all. Fang Chen activated the true meaning of the void and connected with the power of heaven and earth. He instantly found Mo Ying in the void. He did not say anything, but signaled with his eyes. Following Fang Chen's eyes, Luo Hong knew Mo Ying's true body. Whoosh! Chapter 862. Bang! Mo Ying, who originally wanted to launch a sneak attack, was suddenly attacked by 2 people. In a hurry, He barely managed to block the attacks and reappeared from the void in a sorry state. How did you discover me? Mo Ying roared furiously. Mo Ying, today is the day you die, Luo Hong said coldly. Luo Hong was very strong. His 5-element sword art was pushed to the extreme. Countless sword lights appeared and launched a fierce attack on Mo Ying. At the same time, Fang Chen also used the true meaning of void to launch a sneak attack on Mo Ying. You also have the true meaning of shadow. After being attacked by Fang Chen, Mo Ying kept retreating and said with a sinister expression, "True meaning of shadow." Fang Chen sneered and did not reply. Bang! Bang! Luo Hong faced Mo Ying head-on while Fang Chen used the true meaning of void to launch a sneak attack. In the blink of an eye, Mo Ying was a little weak. Run! Mo Ying secretly said in his heart. Subsequently, his figure flashed as he directly used the true meaning of shadow. However, just as he hid in the void, he was kicked away by Fang Chen. Ah! Mo Ying was enraged and roared loudly. His opponent's true meaning was clearly much stronger than his. In front of this person, his true meaning of shadow was completely useless. Mo Ying was proud of his true meaning of shadow. Once his true meaning was ineffective, his strength would be greatly reduced. Damn it! Mo Ying fell into a frenzy and launched a crazy counterattack. However, Luo Hong and Fang Chen were already prepared. Mo Ying could not attack the two of them at all. On the contrary, Fang Chen constantly launched sneak attacks on Mo Ying. Poochie. At a certain moment, Fang Chen's hidden star sword directly pierced Mo Ying's arm and chopped off one of his arms. Ah! Mo Ying let out a miserable cry as his sword fell to the ground. Just as he was about to escape, the hidden star sword suddenly appeared from the other side and chopped off his other arm. With both arms chopped off, Mo Ying let out a miserable cry. Crack! Luo Hong's long sword ruthlessly pierced into the demon's head. The demonic shadow's eyes were filled with unwillingness as his body fell limply to the ground. Seeing Mo Ying's corpse, Luo Hong felt as if he was dreaming. The two of us actually killed Mo Ying, Luo Hong mumbled to himself. The demon shadow was very famous in the nearby cities. He was especially adept at assassination. Any martial artist that he targeted would not be able to survive. But now, Mo Ying was actually killed by the two of them. One of them was in the 6th level of the true martial realm, and the other was in the 5th level of the true martial realm. If this news were to spread out, the outside world would probably not believe it. Luo Hong looked at Fang Chen and became even more determined to befriend him. Let's go, Fang Chen said. After this battle, Fang Chen also realized his own fighting strength. In a one-on-one fight, his combat strength was already comparable to a veteran LV6 genuine martial realm genius like Luo Hong. If he added the true meaning of the void, he would be able to escape unscathed even if he faced a martial artist at LV7 of the true martial realm. The trip to the Jade Moon Wintry Pool had allowed Fang Chen's strength to increase by leaps and bounds. After Mo Ying's death, on a mountain peak in the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, a black shadow was standing on a black altar. Yes, Mo Ying is dead. This black shadow was the Dark Shadow Venerable who had sneak attacked Luo Hong. He was one of the top assassins in the Blood Moon Assassin organization. This time, he had also entered the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. He had unintentionally found an altar. This altar could summon the souls of Almighties who had perished in this place. Once he fused with the souls, he might be able to break through to the mysterious King Realm. While the Dark Shadow Venerable was setting up the altar, Mo Ying's life slip in his interspatial ring suddenly shattered. The Dark Shadow Venerable's expression changed drastically as a terrifying killing intent surged out from his body. Who killed Mo Ying? The Dark Shadow Venerable roared furiously. Mo Ying was one of his favorite disciples. Because he had the true meaning of shadow, he was deeply favored by the Dark Shadow Venerable. The Dark Shadow Venerable was even prepared to pass on his mantle to Mo Ying. The reason why he hadn't brought Mo Ying with him this time was because he wanted to temper Mo Ying alone. But now, he had received bad news. His beloved disciple, Mo Ying, had died. No matter who it is, I, the Dark Shadow Venerable, will definitely not let you off for daring to kill my disciple. The Dark Shadow Venerable roared furiously. After that, The dark shadow Venerable stopped what he was doing and took out a disc. There were some complicated runes on the disc. The dark shadow Venerable poured his aura into the runes, instantly activating the disc. Then, he placed Mo Ying's shattered life slip on the disc. Immediately, the runes on the disc frantically absorbed Mo Ying's imprint from the shattered life slip. In a short while, the shattered life slip completely dimmed. At this moment, a special aura surged out from the disc. The dark shadow Venerable glanced at this aura and it instantly dissipated. I've already memorized this aura. Once I'm done here, I'll definitely track you down and kill you, said the dark shadow Venerable coldly. In the blink of an eye, more than a year had passed since Fang Chen's death. During this period, the demon cloud Lian state had been refining the ancient sword continent on the mountain peak of the Tianju. As the demon cloud Lian state refined the ancient sword continent, the spirit qi on the ancient sword continent became even scarcer. It was abnormally difficult for martial artists to cultivate. Of course, in this year, the Yellow Spring Sect Master had also relied on the fact that he was a subordinate of the demon cloud Lian state to continuously suppress the forces of the other three states. Among them, the Five Elements Academy suffered the most. The Five Elements state didn't have a quasi-king level expert, so the remnants of the Yellow Spring sect constantly harassed the Five Elements Academy. No one in the upper echelon of the Five Elements Academy was a match for the Yellow Spring sect master. In the end, they could only hole up in the Five Elements Peak. The Five Elements Peak had a protective array set up by the founder of the Five Elements Academy. Even the Yellow Spring sect master couldn't break it. However, this didn't stop the Yellow Spring sect master from slaughtering the martial artists of the Five Elements Academy. In the past year, as long as a martial artist left the Five Elements Peak, they would be killed by the Yellow Spring sect. Within the Five Elements Academy, the atmosphere was extremely heavy. On the main peak of the Five Elements Peak, Principal Wu Yun sat on the highest throne. Below him, the Bloody Spearman, Elder Han, the Four Holy Masters, and Zhong Jingtao were all present. Principal, we can't just sit here and wait for death. The Bloody Spearman was the first to speak. That's right. The Yellow Spring sect has gone too far. We can't continue like this. Elder Han said. The Four Holy Masters all nodded. They couldn't swallow the resentment in their hearts after being suppressed by the Yellow Spring sect. The reason the Yellow Spring sect chose to suppress our Five Elements Academy is because our Five Elements state doesn't have a quasi-king level expert. Principal Wu Yun looked around and slowly said, "That's why I've gathered everyone here today. I want to tell everyone something." "What is it?" the Bloody Spearman asked. "Do you still remember the treasure left behind by our Five Elements Academy's ancestors?" Principal Wu Yun said. "Principal, you can't." "That's right. Principal, you can't touch that thing. If you fail, your soul will scatter. Principal, please think carefully." Below him, several true martial realm experts all tried to stop him. Principal Wu Yun shook his head. "I've already made up my mind. There's no need to dissuade me." After speaking, Principal Wu Yun stood up and said, "I'll leave the Five Elements Academy to you. With the mountain protecting formation, the Yellow Spring sect can't do anything to us. As long as I succeed, it'll be time for our Five Elements Academy to rise again." After speaking, Principal Wu Yun disappeared from the main hall. The true martial realm experts below fell into silence. Of course, danger was everywhere on the ancient sword continent. The Yellow Spring sect had always been committing evil and slaughtering ordinary martial artists. However, with the Devil Cloud Lian state, the two quasi-king level experts didn't dare to act rashly. Moreover, as the Devil Cloud Lian state refined the ancient sword continent, the continent's resources became extremely scarce. Even the spirit qi was somewhat barren. In Tianju, at the peak of a towering mountain, the Devil Cloud Lian state sat cross-legged. His body was surrounded by a majestic aura. All the heaven and earth energy in the area was sucked to his side. As expected, it's too difficult for non-natives to refine, the Devil Cloud Lian state said to himself. However, after a year of hard work, the heart of the world's rejection of me is already very weak. As long as the heart of the world didn't reject him, his refining speed would greatly increase. Chapter 863. The Five Elements Secret Realm was a small secret realm. But as long as you wanted to hide, the Blood Moon assassins would find it very difficult to find you. The Five Elements Palace Master had told the Five Elements Palace's disciples that the most important thing after entering the Five Elements Secret Realm was to survive. However, although they had been careful, they had still been discovered by the Divine Destruction Palace's people. On the seventh day of the Five Elements Secret Realm's opening, one of the Five Elements Palace's disciples was killed by the Divine Destruction Palace's disciples. And that was only the first. Over the next few days, the Five Elements Palace's disciples were killed one after another. There had only been 7 people in total. In just 10 days, 3 had been killed. Only 4 remained. At this time, in a hidden cave, Luo Yong's face was ashen. "That damnable Yu Junchang," roared Luo Yong. Luo Jian's expression was gloomy. He was furious. Not long ago, they encountered the chief disciple of the Godly Destruction Palace, Yu Junchang. The latter went on a killing spree and killed a few disciples of the Five Elements Palace. Fortunately, Luo Yong and Luo Jian fled quickly and barely avoided the calamity. Now they were hiding here, not daring to go out. "Senior apprentice brother Luo Yong, we can't continue like this," whispered Luo Jian. "Then what do you think we should do?" asked Luo Yong. "How about we go find Luo Hong and Fang Chen?" asked Luo Jian. Luo Yong was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Since it's like this, we can only do this." Luo Yong personally sent a message to Luo Hong. It didn't take long for him to obtain Luo Hong's coordinates. "Let's go," said Luo Yong. At this time, in another region, Fang Chen and Luo Hong were sitting on a boulder. Suddenly, Luo Hong's transmission jade pendant vibrated. Luo Hong immediately told Luo Yong his location. "What is it?" asked Fang Chen. 3 of my Five Elements Palace's disciples have died," said Luo Hong gloomily. Fang Chen nodded and sank into silence. They were already in a disadvantageous position. Although the 2 of them had joined hands to kill Mo Ying, there was still the dark shadow Venerable hiding in the shadows. Once he appeared, Fang Chen and Luo Hong wouldn't be able to resist. "Brother Fang, it seems we need to speed up," Luo Hong suddenly said. Fang Chen glanced at Luo Hong in astonishment. The latter slowly said, "Before coming here, Master told me that there is a flower in the Five Elements mystical ground. Only by obtaining this flower can we turn the tables." "What flower?" Fang Chen asked. "Blood Jade Body Flower," Luo Hong said. This was the first time Fang Chen had heard of the Blood Jade Body Flower. He looked at Luo Hong in astonishment. The Blood Jade Body Flower is a magical flower in the Sword Burial Continent. It's said that it can cultivate on its own. When it reaches a certain level of cultivation, it will produce a flower spirit. Once the Blood Jade Body Flower possesses a flower spirit, the Blood Jade Body Flower will produce a vast amount of Blood Jade energy. In our Five Elements Palace, there is a sect guarding formation. This formation is called the Blood Jade Formation. In order to activate the Blood Jade Formation, only Cai Kangyong, who has the Blood Jade Body Flower, Luo Hong said. When Fang Chen heard this, he finally understood. As a peak formation grandmaster, he naturally knew about the Blood Jade Formation. In the records of the Formation Dao Foundation Scroll, the Blood Moon Formation only existed in legends. This kind of formation was a peak Dao formation. Even an ordinary formation Saint Master wouldn't be able to set it up. The Blood Jade Formation required an enormous amount of energy, so even a Saint Master who could set it up wouldn't be willing to rashly set it up. He hadn't expected the Five Elements Palace to have a Blood Jade Formation. The Blood Jade Formation. Fang Chen's eyes flickered. "Brother Fang, have you heard of this formation?" Luo Hong hastily asked. "I know a thing or two. This formation is too difficult to set up and requires an enormous amount of energy. Are you sure you can set it up with the Blood Jade Body Flower?" asked Fang Chen. "Master personally told me that even with the Blood Jade Body Flower, there's only a 50% chance of setting it up. Unless a Saint Master personally takes action," said Luo Hong. Hearing this, Fang Chen immediately asked, "Where is the Blood Jade Body Flower?" "Master is only guessing. We only know a rough location," said Luo Hong. Fang Chen nodded and didn't say anything else. He waited for Luo Yong and Luo Jian to arrive. About 6 hours later, Luo Yong and Luo Jian arrived. After the four of them met up, they quickly left this place. According to Luo Hong's memories, the blood jade body flower should grow in a special place. At this moment, the four of them were quickly heading to the center of the five elements secret realm. After several days, Fang Chen and the other three finally arrived at the center of the five elements secret realm. There was a faintly discernible palace here. The blood jade body flower should be here, said Luo Hong softly. Let's go in, said Fang Chen. Ha ha ha, you can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. At this moment, an arrogant voice came from afar. Following that, several figures instantly appeared. Luo Hong turned his head and his pupils shrank. The people from the Divine Destruction Palace had actually found this place. Luo Hong, today is the day you die, the leader said eerily. Luo Hong and Fang Chen looked at each other and the aura around them surged. You are the ones who will die. As soon as Fang Chen finished speaking, the true intent of the void was instantly activated and his figure disappeared. Poochie. Every time Fang Chen appeared, a martial artist would be ambushed. When the martial artist who was ambushed resisted with all his might, Luo Hong's long sword quietly pierced his head. In the time it took for sparks to fly off a flint, a martial artist was beheaded. A look of surprise appeared on the faces of the remaining four martial artists. Damn it, let's attack together. The leader shouted loudly. Suddenly, the four martial artists exploded with terrifying aura and attacked Luo Hong and the other three with all their might. Die! At this moment, Luo Yong and Luo Jian also joined the battle. With Luo Yong's tyrannical fighting strength, it was easier for Fang Chen to ambush them. Fang Chen used the true intent of the void to restrain the four martial artists while Luo Yong and Luo Hong exploded with terrifying strength to kill the martial artists from the Divine Destruction Palace. Poochie. In the blink of an eye, the four martial artists were killed. Voila! Fang Chen's figure appeared from the void. At this moment, Luo Yong and Luo Jian looked at Fang Chen with shock in their eyes. After a long time, Luo Yong smiled at Fang Chen and said, Brother Fang, your true intent of the void is really domineering. The true intent of the void allowed one to hide in the void at will. It was definitely a nightmare for martial artists. Of course, in the face of absolute strength, the true intent of the void was useless. After killing these 5 people, in addition to the 2 previously killed, there were a total of 7 people. In other words, there were only 6 people from the Divine Destruction Palace and the Blood Moon Assassin Organization in the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. Among them, the most dangerous was Dark Shadow Venerable. As for the other 5, Fang Chen and Luo Hong were not afraid. Even Yu Junchang was not afraid. Go in, Luo Hong said loudly. In an instant, the 4 of them entered the faintly discernible palace. After entering the palace, the 4 of them discovered that the palace was empty. Let's split up and search, Luo Hong said. Then, the 4 of them split up to search. After about an hour, Luo Hong found their target. Then, the 4 of them gathered together again. At this moment, Luo Hong was standing in a garden. There were countless flowers and plants in the garden. However, the most eye-catching thing was the blood-red flower in the middle of the lawn. There were 9 red flowers on the blood-red flower branch. These 9 red flowers were very beautiful. Is this the blood jade body flower? Fang Chen muttered to himself. That's right. This is the blood jade body flower. It's a 9-leaf blood jade body flower, Luo Hong said excitedly. A 9-leaf blood jade body flower was the most precious. It was many times more precious than an ordinary 3-leaf or 6-leaf blood jade body flower. With this 9-leaf blood jade body flower, we'll definitely be able to set up a blood jade formation. Luo Hong was very excited. Luo Yong and Luo Jian were also very excited. This flower was their greatest trump card to turn the tables on the Divine Destruction Palace. I'll go and pluck it. Luo Jian immediately took a step forward and said loudly. Wait. Luo Hong grabbed Luo Jian and stopped Luo Jian's action. Chapter 864. Hearing this, Luo Jian was shocked. He stared at the blood jade body flower with fear. A poison that even a true martial realm cultivator can't resist, Fang Chen said softly. He didn't know much about the blood jade body flower, but he felt that this flower was too strange. Then what should we do? Luo Yong asked. I'll try, Luo Hong said softly. Luo Hong's constitution was a very rare poison-resistant constitution. Normal poisons couldn't do anything to him. Among the 4 people present, he was the most confident. Luo Hong's figure flashed and instantly appeared in the flowers. Then, he came in front of the blood jade body flower. The blood jade body flower was 3 meters tall. 9 beautiful flowers bloomed. Walking in front of it, Luo Hong could feel a strange aura invading his body. What a strong poison! Luo Hong's body was surrounded by a large amount of aura. He had already activated his poison-resistant constitution. This aura was used to resist the blood jade body flower's poison. Although he was prepared, his clothes were still corroded. Not good. Just as Luo Hong was about to reach out to pick the blood jade body flower, a blood-red flower suddenly attacked Luo Hong. Luo Hong shouted and immediately retreated. Humans, how dare you target me? You will all die. At this moment, an illusory voice came from the blood jade body flower. There was a hint of anger in the voice. Flower spirit. Hearing this, the 4 people were shocked. The blood jade body flower actually produced a flower spirit. This was bad. With a flower spirit, the blood jade body flower could be considered to have some intelligence. It was extremely difficult to obtain it. We just want to use your body to set up a formation. Luo Hong tried to communicate with the flower spirit. Okay, as long as you agree to one condition, the flower spirit said. What condition? Luo Hong asked hurriedly. Find me a suitable body as a carrier, the flower spirit said. Immediately, Fang Chen and the others fell silent. Whoosh! Seeing that the 4 of them were silent, the 9 flowers on the blood jade body flower opened instantly. In the next moment, a bloody aura spread out. Not good. Luo Hong shouted and the 4 immediately retreated. Bang! Bang! The blood jade body flower attacked the 4 of them. Puchi Fang Chen and the other 2 could still resist, but Luo Jian was in a bit of danger. After enduring for a while, Luo Jian's body was pierced by the flower. His face immediately turned ashen and the corner of his mouth turned purple. The poison had seeped into his body. Save me! Luo Jian screamed miserably. His body fell to the ground and twitched continuously. White foam was coming out from the corner of his mouth. Oh no, he's been poisoned. Luo Hong shouted. He wanted to save Luo Jian, but he was blocked by the blood jade body flower and could not get away. Watching Luo Jian die, Luo Hong and Luo Yong were furious. Damn it! Luo Hong cursed as he exerted all his strength to break free from the blood jade body flower's attack. Then, he retreated continuously. After the 3 of them left the garden, the 9 flowers of the blood jade body flower were instantly withdrawn. It seems to be unable to leave this garden. Fang Chen pondered for a long time and said in a deep voice. As long as we enter the garden, it will attack us, Luo Yong said. Luo Hong fell into silence. Let me give it a try. Fang Chen had the true meaning of void and wanted to give it a try. Whoosh! Fang Chen's figure disappeared into thin air. He walked in the void and appeared in front of the blood jade body flower. Then, he appeared in an instant and slashed the blood jade body flower with the hidden star sword in his hand. Caught off guard, one of the flowers of the blood jade body flower was chopped off by Fang Chen. Then, Fang Chen flicked the tip of his sword and the flower on the ground flew out of the garden in an instant. Damn human, you're dead. The fairy was furious. Immediately, 8 flowers bloomed together, wanting to entangle Fang Chen. However, before the flowers could get close to Fang Chen, the latter disappeared. The fairy was surprised. Then, it seemed to understand. Space-type true meaning. The fairy roared angrily. Withdrawing the true meaning of void, Fang Chen landed outside the garden. On the ground, a beautiful flower lay quietly. Luo Hong and Luo Yong's eyes were burning. The flower has been chopped off and the poison has been removed. However, it's obvious that it doesn't have enough energy. Luo Hong said in a low voice. Brother Fang, if we can gather all 9 flowers, we might really succeed. This flower was no longer poisonous. Luo Hong had used a special method to seal it as he said to Fang Chen, "Don't worry. This was a serious matter." Fang Chen didn't dare to be careless and immediately nodded in agreement. Fang Chen used the true meaning of void to attack the blood jade body flower continuously. However, the latter was prepared. After obtaining the 2 flowers, Fang Chen could no longer sneak an attack on the blood jade body flower. Seeing this, Luo Hong felt a little helpless. "We only got 3 flowers. It's still not enough," Luo Hong said. Fang Chen's eyes flickered as he stared at the blood jade body flower. No one knew what he was thinking. However, at this moment, the fairy suddenly spoke. "I can make a deal with you." "What deal?" Luo Hong asked. "Return the 3 flowers to me and I can help you set up the formation," the fairy said. "Why should we believe you?" Luo Yong asked. "Do you have any other choice?" The fairy said. "You need me so urgently. You must have encountered a powerful enemy." Hearing this, Luo Hong and Luo Yong fell into deep thought. Fang Chen stared at the blood jade body flower and asked, "I'm afraid that's not your only goal, right? Human, you're very smart." "You're right. I want to regain my freedom," the fairy said. Fang Chen wanted to say something, but suddenly, his mind was shaken, and he immediately agreed. "Okay, I promise you. But you have to seal the poison so that you can't attack us," Fang Chen said. The fairy immediately agreed. Its aura flickered and instantly sealed the poison. Seeing this, Luo Hong handed over the 3 flowers. The blood jade body flower instantly returned to its original state. "How can we get you out of here?" Fang Chen asked. "Use me as the core of the formation to set up the formation. When your enemy arrives, I'll be able to break the seal after absorbing enough energy," the fairy said. Fang Chen and the other 2 were overjoyed. Things were much easier than they had imagined. "Let me try." After Luo Hong finished speaking, he took a step forward. A blood-red aura surrounded his body, and the chant of the blood jade formation appeared in his mind. Luo Hong usually liked formations. According to the ranks of the ancient sword continent, he could be considered a formation master. However, Fang Chen could see that Luo Hong's method of setting up the formation was obviously a little stiff. Fang Chen sighed and thought to himself, "It's most likely impossible." The blood jade formation was too difficult. Even with the help of the blood jade body flower, it might not be able to be set up successfully. Unless Luo Hong was a formation master. Luo Hong tried his best to set up the formation, but every time he was halfway through, he couldn't set it up anymore. This made Luo Hong very anxious. "You're too weak. You can't even set up a formation," the fairy mocked. Luo Hong didn't believe it. He gritted his teeth and continued to set up the formation. Watching Luo Hong set up the formation, countless blood-red rays of light appeared in the garden and scattered in a complicated manner. Fang Chen quietly watched all of this. Suddenly, his eyes shone with a strange light. After gaining enlightenment, Fang Chen entered an ethereal state. At this moment, the scene of Luo Hong setting up the blood jade formation automatically appeared in Fang Chen's mind. It was as if he had captured the most precious scene. Fang Chen was a peak formation grandmaster before, but he had been unable to break through to the formation master realm. But now, he felt as if he had opened a new door on the path of formations. The aura of the formation surrounded his body, and his robes fluttered without wind. Luo Yong was also a little surprised when he saw this. As for Luo Hong, who was setting up the formation, he also sensed that something was wrong with Fang Chen. Brother Fang has entered a state of enlightenment. Luo Hong stopped setting up the formation and asked in surprise. "This child is not simple. Not only does he have a space-type true meaning, he is also quite talented in the path of formations," the fairy muttered to itself. Although it was the spirit of the blood jade body flower, it also recognized that Fang Chen was extraordinary. At this moment, in the sky not far away from this palace, a figure was rapidly flying over. Chapter 865. Yu Junchang rushed to the center of the 5 elements mystery realm. He noticed the faintly discernible palace, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. He immediately said, "Sure enough." Then, Yu Junchang entered the palace. There's spiritual chi fluctuation. Yu Junchang immediately realized that there were other people in the palace. He immediately jumped up and flew above the palace. In an instant, he saw Luo Hong and the others. Luo Hong. Seeing this, Yu Junchang's face was filled with a sinister smile. With a swoosh, he landed outside the garden. Yu Junchang. Luo Hong also noticed Yu Junchang. His expression changed slightly and he gave up on setting up the array. He came to Fang Chen's side and stared at Yu Junchang. "Luo Hong, I didn't expect you to be the first to find this place." Yu Junchang's eyes flickered and he smiled sinisterly. All along, Yu Junchang and Luo Hong had been sworn enemies. Luo Hong was the direct disciple of the Five Elements Palace Master and Yu Junchang was the direct disciple of the God Destruction Palace Master. The two of them had always been fighting for the title of the top expert among the younger generation in the Five Elements Sword City. Before entering the Five Elements Mystery Realm, the God Destruction Palace Master had told Yu Junchang to find a chance to kill Luo Hong. Once Luo Hong and Luo Yong died, the Five Elements Palace would lose 5 of their younger generation. It would be a great loss to the Five Elements Palace. Yu Junchang. Luo Hong stared at Yu Junchang. He was not afraid of Yu Junchang at all. Luo Yong also stood beside Luo Hong, shoulder to shoulder. Blood Jade Body Flower. At this moment, Yu Junchang saw the Blood Jade Body Flower and his face was filled with surprise. "No wonder you're here. It's because of this." Obviously, Yu Junchang also knew how precious the Blood Jade Body Flower was. Looking at the Blood Jade Body Flower, Yu Junchang's eyes were filled with killing intent. "Great, I'll get rid of you together." Yu Junchang smiled sinisterly. Immediately, a double-edged sword appeared in Yu Junchang's hand and a vast aura surged around him. "Let's attack together." Luo Hong shouted and joined forces with Luo Yong to fight Yu Junchang. Bang bang bang, the 3LV6 true martial realm martial artists fought fiercely and the entire palace shook. Fang Chen, who was in the garden, remained motionless and entered a deep state of enlightenment. Swish. Just as Luo Hong thought that he could firmly suppress Yu Junchang, a deafening sound suddenly rang out. Yu Junchang had erupted with his true strength. 7th level of the true martial realm. Luo Hong's pupils shrank as he quickly retreated. Yu Junchang's strength was very strong. When he was at the 6th LV of the true martial realm, he was already able to fight across realms. At this moment, his cultivation had reached the 7th LV of the true martial realm. The attack power he could unleash in an instant was too terrifying. Of the 7 people from your Five Elements Palace who came in this time, I'm afraid only the 3 of you are left. You can finish them off together, Yu Junchang said with a sneer. He simply did not place Luo Hong in his eyes. Luo Yong and Luo Hong looked at each other. Their faces were filled with helplessness. If Fang Chen joined the battle, the 3 of them would definitely be able to kill Yu Junchang. But now, Fang Chen was in the middle of an epiphany. Perhaps he could use it to break through. Their real enemy was Dark Shadow Venerable, not Yu Junchang. Stop him. Just as Luo Hong was pondering, Yu Junchang suddenly launched a fierce attack. Luo Hong roared and joined forces with Luo Yong to stop Yu Junchang. Although Yu Junchang was powerful and had reached the 7th LV of the true martial realm, he could not do anything to the 2 of them for a while. In this way, the battle continued anxiously. On the other hand, Fang Chen was in the middle of an epiphany. Crash. At a certain moment, a terrifying aura suddenly emerged in Fang Chen's mind. Then, a complex array appeared in Fang Chen's body. The appearance of this array made Fang Chen overjoyed. A Saint Master? Fang Chen suddenly opened his eyes and looked inwardly at the small array in his body. This array seemed to be integrated into his body. It was very delicate. Seeing this array, Fang Chen was very excited. Setting up an array in one's body was the mark of an array Saint Master. In other words, during the epiphany just now, Fang Chen had successfully broken through from a top-notch array Grandmaster to an array Saint Master. If news of an array Saint Master under the age of 30 spread back to the ancient Sword Continent, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. When Fang Chen woke up from his epiphany, he suddenly found Luo Hong and the others fighting fiercely. Yes. When Fang Chen discovered Yu Junchang, his figure flashed and activated the true meaning of the void. He directly used the void destruction slash to launch a sneak attack on Yu Junchang. Yu Junchang, who had been gradually suppressing Luo Hong and Luo Yong, was suddenly attacked by Fang Chen. He was caught off guard and kept retreating. When he steadied himself, he stared at Fang Chen. "Who are you?" Yu Junchang asked coldly. This person actually had the true meaning of space and almost launched a sneak attack on him. "Brother Fang." Seeing Fang Chen attack, Luo Hong and Luo Yong were overjoyed. It seemed that Fang Chen had gained something. "Get rid of him first," Fang Chen said. Luo Hong and Luo Yong nodded heavily and then exploded with terrifying power. The two of them were in charge of frontal attacks, while Fang Chen used the true meaning of the void to launch a sneak attack. With Fang Chen's current strength, it was easy for him to launch a sneak attack on Yu Junchang. Following the success of Fang Chen's sneak attack, Yu Junchang let out an angry roar. Immediately, he activated all his strength to block Fang Chen's attack. In the blink of an eye, the situation of the battle was completely reversed. Yu Junchang was at a disadvantage and was constantly attacked by the three of them. Dark Shadow Venerable. Finally, after being repelled by the three of them, Yu Junchang took out his communication jade pendant and sent a message to Dark Shadow Venerable. Seeing this, Fang Chen and the other two's faces changed drastically. "Is Dark Shadow Venerable coming?" Luo Hong cried out. "You guys stop him. I'll go set up the array," Fang Chen said in a deep voice. Then, Fang Chen's figure flashed and entered the garden. "I'm going to set up the array. Cooperate with me fully," Fang Chen said. The blood jade body flower kept swaying. The fairy promised to cooperate with Fang Chen fully. At the same time, a piece of information appeared in Fang Chen's mind. It was the chant of the blood jade array that Luo Hong passed to Fang Chen. As a sage master, he completely understood the specific structure of the blood jade array with a glance. Crash. Fang Chen began to set up the array. This was the first time he set up an array after becoming a sage master. "It's so easy." Fang Chen felt that he could set up the foundation of the array casually and could easily mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Is this the strength of a sage master? Fang Chen didn't have time to sigh. With Dark Shadow Venerable's strength, if he wanted to come, he would have to set up the Snow Domain array before Dark Shadow Venerable arrived. "Blood Jade Array!" Fang Chen shouted in a low voice. The 108 array foundations were all set up. Next was to set up the core of the array. With the help of the blood jade body flower, the core of the array was instantly formed. With the blood jade body flower as the center, the blood jade array that enveloped the entire palace instantly spread out. Whoosh! Countless blood-red lines intertwined in the void, indicating that the blood jade array had been formed. Blood jade array. Luo Hong, who was in the middle of a fierce battle, suddenly sensed the appearance of the array. He was extremely shocked. Then, he turned his head to look at Fang Chen and shouted in disbelief, "Is he a sage master of array?" When Fang Chen had an epiphany, Luo Hong thought that Fang Chen was just an ordinary array master. He never expected that Fang Chen had broken through to the Sage Master realm. "Ha ha ha, the Blood Jade Array is set up." Luo Yong laughed wildly. With the Blood Jade Array, even if Dark Shadow Venerable came, they were fearless. Bang! With the support of the Blood Jade Array, Luo Hong and Luo Yong attacked with all their might and sent Yu Junchang flying. With a bang, Yu Junchang's body hit the edge of the Blood Jade Array and then fell heavily to the ground. What kind of array is this? Yu Junchang spat out a mouthful of blood and was greatly shocked. At this moment, Dark Shadow Venerable was flying at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye in the distant sky. If there was a true martial realm expert here, he would definitely be shocked. Dark Shadow Venerable's speed was not inferior to an ordinary mysterious king realm expert. It was too fast, simply not comparable to a true martial realm expert. "I want to avenge Mo Ying," Dark Shadow Venerable said in a deep voice. In an instant, Dark Shadow Venerable arrived in front of the palace. Chapter 866. The Dark Shadow Venerable sensed the aura of the Blood Jade Body Flower as soon as he arrived at the palace. Immediately, his eyes lit up. I've searched high and low for it, only to find it by sheer luck. The Dark Shadow Venerable laughed sinisterly and rushed into the array. The Dark Shadow Venerable was on the strange altar, and he was only one step away from succeeding in summoning the spirit of the Almighty. He had been worried about how to complete the last step. Now that he found the blood jade body flower, he was extremely excited. The blood jade body flower was an item of extreme yin and cold. Once it was sacrificed to the altar, it would definitely complete the last step of summoning the spirit of the Almighty and fusing with it. Ha ha ha, God is helping me. The Dark Shadow Venerable seemed to see himself successfully summoning the spirit of the Almighty, devouring it, and finally reaching the Mystic King realm. Therefore, even though the Dark Shadow Venerable knew that the palace was enveloped by the array, he still entered the array without hesitation. As soon as he entered the array, he saw Yu Junchang being attacked by Luo Hong. At this moment, Yu Junchang no longer had the demeanor of a genius. He was covered in blood and his aura was a little weak. Trash. The Dark Shadow Venerable's figure flashed and instantly appeared in the void, saving Yu Junchang from danger. Dark Shadow Venerable, kill them. Yu Junchang was in a frenzy. His eyes were scarlet as he roared crazily. Don't worry, the three of them will die. The Dark Shadow Venerable stared at the three of them and smiled sinisterly. You guys deal with him. I'll take care of the array, Fang Chen said in a deep voice. He was an array saint master and only he could maintain the operation of the blood jade array. Hearing this, Luo Hong and Luo Yong's aura surged and they were ready for battle. Child's play. The Dark Shadow Venerable disappeared. When he reappeared in the next moment, he was already in front of Luo Hong. He reached out his hand and wanted to crush Luo Hong's head. Unfortunately, just as he was about to succeed, Fang Chen activated the blood jade array and used the blood red aura in the array to move Luo Hong away. At the same time, the Dark Shadow Venerable felt a strong sense of danger. His body was wrapped in a blood red aura. Blood jade body flower will be the core of the formation. The Dark Shadow Venerable instantly discovered the existence of the blood jade body flower. Then, he activated all the strength in his body to resist the invasion of the blood red aura and rushed toward the center of the array. Stop him! Fang Chen roared after discovering Dark Shadow Venerable's intention. Luo Hong and Luo Yong attacked with all their might. However, the Dark Shadow Venerable was too strong. He had reached the Quasi-King realm and was not someone they could stop. Dark Shadow Venerable waved his hand casually and the two of them were instantly sent flying. Without the obstruction of Luo Hong and Luo Yong, Dark Shadow Venerable arrived in front of the blood jade body flower in the blink of an eye. When he saw the 9-leaf blood jade body flower, his face was filled with excitement. He's a 9-leaf cultivator, Dark Shadow Venerable shouted excitedly. Fang Chen maintained the blood jade array and attacked the Dark Shadow Venerable with all his strength. Swoosh! The blood jade array was a top-notch Dao array. Even Dark Shadow Venerable did not dare to let his guard down. However, the Dark Shadow Venerable was caught off guard and was pierced by the blood jade body flower just now. Damn it! Dark Shadow Venerable looked a little wretched. He stared at the blood jade body flower and said eerily, it actually gained sentience. That's even better. Then, Dark Shadow Venerable launched a fierce and domineering attack on the blood jade body flower. Control the blood jade array and attack him, Hua Ling transmitted her voice to Fang Chen. At this moment, Fang Chen activated the blood jade formation to the extreme and directly launched an encirclement on the Dark Shadow Venerable. If it was an ordinary 9th-level true martial realm martial artist, he would have died long ago. However, Dark Shadow Venerable was different. He could actually withstand the powerful attack of the blood jade array. Furthermore, the Dark Shadow Exalted's hands directly grabbed onto the blood jade body flower. With a tug, the blood jade body flower was instantly pulled out from the soil. Ah! Dark Shadow Venerable roared. He held the blood jade body flower tightly with both hands as if he was going to put it into his interspatial ring. However, at this moment, the blood jade body flower did not seem to dodge. Instead, it wanted to use Dark Shadow Venerable's strength to completely escape from the soil. Fang Chen, who was controlling the blood jade array, instantly noticed this scene. Oh no! Fang Chen cried out in his heart before he cried out loudly. The Blood Jade Body Flower seemed to be using the Blood Jade Array and Dark Shadow Venerable's strength to break the seal. Fang Chen activated the power of the Blood Jade Array to the extreme in an attempt to stop it. However, it was too late. Splash! The moment the root of the Blood Jade Body Flower came out of the soil, a blood-red aura instantly spread out. In an instant, it enveloped Dark Shadow Venerable. Trying to devour me? Dark Shadow Venerable laughed sinisterly and injected a powerful force into the Blood Jade Body Flower. Fang Chen was extremely anxious as he watched Dark Shadow Venerable fight with the Blood Jade Body Flower. Let's go. Fang Chen could not control such a situation. He gave up controlling the Blood Jade Array and came to Luo Yong and Luo Hong's side. Then, the three of them quickly left the Blood Jade Array. The three of them left the palace as fast as they could. After walking for about 15 minutes, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Brother Fang, what's going on? Luo Hong finally had a chance to ask. The Blood Jade Body Flower has been using us. Fang Chen explained the situation in detail. After listening, Luo Hong's eyes flickered and he said helplessly, once Dark Shadow Venerable controls the Blood Jade Body Flower, we will be in danger. Let's get out of here first, Fang Chen said. After the three of them left, the Blood Jade Array was gradually broken down without anyone to maintain it. Without the help of the Blood Jade Array, the Blood Jade Body Flower was at a disadvantage in the battle, and Dark Shadow Venerable's strength had completely recovered. Dark Shadow Venerable immediately pressed down and suppressed the Blood Jade Body Flower. Keep! Dark Shadow Venerable sneered. Immediately, the Blood Jade Body Flower was put into his space ring. No. The Blood Jade Body Flower was no match for Dark Shadow Venerable and the fairy let out a miserable cry. After keeping the Blood Jade Body Flower, Dark Shadow Venerable turned to look at Yu Junchang. They escaped? Dark Shadow Venerable asked. Yu Junchang nodded, his face pale. Come with me, Dark Shadow Venerable said. Venerable, are we going to kill them? Yu Junchang asked. We have plenty of time to kill them. Dark Shadow Venerable brought Yu Junchang to the front of the altar. You stay here and heal your wounds. After saying that, Dark Shadow Venerable came to the altar again. At this time, there was a thick black aura around the altar. Whoosh! Dark Shadow Venerable took out the Blood Jade Body Flower and placed it on the altar. The Blood Jade Body Flower was a little frightened and kept struggling. You want to summon the soul of an almighty? You're playing with fire, the fairy roared. Playing with fire? Dark Shadow Venerable sneered and ignored the fairy's cries. Immediately, he formed a complicated seal with his palm and gradually opened the altar. The Blood Jade Body Flower was completely absorbed by the altar in fear. No, you'll regret it. The fairy roared as the Blood Jade Body Flower was being absorbed. When the Blood Jade Body Flower was completely absorbed by the altar, the entire altar suddenly trembled. The surroundings were filled with a gloomy aura. Dark Shadow Venerable stood on the altar and closed his eyes slightly. Crack! A crack appeared on the altar. Then, a gloomy voice came from the crack. Who is summoning me? The soul of an almighty had appeared. A soul-like soul floated out of the altar and floated beside Dark Shadow Venerable's head. You're the one summoning me. To be called an almighty, he must have some means that could shake the world. Even if his soul was destroyed, he could still leave a trace of his soul. At this moment, the soul was summoned and a gloomy voice came out. That's right, I'm the one summoning you. Dark Shadow Venerable opened his eyes and said, Do you know the consequences of summoning me? The soul of an almighty said coldly. Chapter 867. Dark Shadow Venerable looked at the almighty's ghost that was floating around his head and smiled excitedly. He did not take the almighty's ghost's words to heart at all. Stupid warrior, you will pay a price that you can't afford to pay for summoning me, the almighty's ghost said coldly. Old man, do you really think you are still at your peak? Seeing this, Dark Shadow Venerable sneered. Immediately after, a blood-red bead appeared in the Dark Shadow Venerable's palm. The appearance of the bead immediately made the almighty's yin soul cry out in shock. Soul-locking bead, why do you have the soul-locking bead? At this moment, the almighty's ghost wanted to escape from this place. However, Dark Shadow Venerable would not give him the chance. Dark Shadow Venerable shook his wrist and the soul-locking bead was activated instantly. A majestic blood-red aura spread out and enveloped the Almighty's ghost. When the Almighty's ghost was enveloped by the aura of the soul-locking bead, he struggled and roared desperately. However, the soul-locking bead was specially targeted at the Almighty's ghost. The latter could not break free at all. In the end, after struggling for a while, the Almighty's ghost was completely sucked into the soul-locking bead. Splash! The blood-red aura disappeared and the soul-locking bead returned to Dark Shadow Venerable's hand. Dark Shadow Venerable stared at the red soul-locking bead and smiled evilly. Yu Junchang, protect me. Dark Shadow Venerable glanced at Yu Junchang and said. Yu Junchang nodded and sat down cross-legged. While healing, he helped Dark Shadow Venerable. Yu Junchang also knew that Dark Shadow Venerable was his greatest reliance in the Five Elements mystery realm. Once Dark Shadow Venerable died, he would be killed by Luo Hong and the others. Dark Shadow Venerable sat on the altar and black aura surrounded him. Then, Dark Shadow Venerable swallowed the soul-locking bead. Suddenly, the Almighty's ghost was merged with Dark Shadow Venerable through a special method. 2 hours later, the Almighty's ghost was completely merged with Dark Shadow Venerable. At this moment, Dark Shadow Venerable's aura surged and he looked like he was about to enter the mysterious King realm. Am I going to break through? Dark Shadow Venerable was excited and he thought to himself. However, just as Dark Shadow Venerable thought that he was about to break through, his mind suddenly trembled. Shortly after, the Dark Shadow Venerable was shocked to discover that a blood-red flower had appeared in his mind. How is the blood jade body flower possible? Dark Shadow Venerable cried out. Didn't he sacrifice the blood jade body flower to the yin soul of a powerful existence? Why would it appear in his mind? Just then, the 9 flowers of the blood jade body flower bloomed beautifully, releasing a wild aura that devoured the soul of the Dark Shadow Reverend. No! Dark Shadow Venerable roared furiously. He had not expected such a thing to happen. You can't stop it, the fairy said in a gloomy voice. Dark Shadow Venerable, who was sitting on the altar, was trying his best to resist the fairy's invasion. On a certain mountain peak in the Five Elements mystery realm, Fang Chen and the other 2 sat quietly. The blood jade formation has shattered, and the Dark Shadow Venerable has taken away the blood jade body flower. What should we do? Asked Luo Hong worriedly. Yeah, without the restriction of the blood jade formation, we won't be able to resist the attack of the Dark Shadow Venerable, said Luo Yong. Fang Chen's eyes flickered, and his mind was filled with thoughts. At this moment, a few figures appeared on the plains below. Godly Destruction Palace? Asked Luo Hong suddenly. And the Blood Moon Assassin Organization, said Luo Yong. Kill. Fang Chen did not say anything, and used his true intent of the void to hide in the void. Luo Yong and Luo Hong flew directly to the plains. Five Elements Palace, kill them, the few of them shouted when they saw Luo Hong and Luo Yong. They had been looking for the Five Elements Palace, and now that they finally found them, they naturally had to kill them. Poof! With Fang Chen's true intent of the void, it was easy for Luo Hong and Luo Yong to kill them. In the blink of an eye, the assassins of the Blood Moon Assassin Organization and the disciples of the Godly Destruction Palace were all dead. Yu Junchang and the Dark Shadow Venerable too, said Luo Hong. At this moment, in the Godly Destruction Palace's headquarters within the Five Elements Sword City, the Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master was sitting on the throne. There were some life slips to the side of the hall. These life slips were the life slips of the disciples who had entered the Five Elements secret realm. Several life slips had already shattered, which meant that those disciples had already died. Crack! In the middle of their discussion, one of the life slips suddenly shattered. Everyone looked over at it. It's the assassins of the Blood Moon Assassin Organization, said an elder. One of the elders of the Blood Moon Assassin Organization had a gloomy expression. Their assassins had died one after another. Palace Master, is this what you meant by the Five Elements Palace's disciples being weak? Asked an elder of the Blood Moon Assassin Organization. Elder Shui, don't be anxious. Perhaps the 7 of them have already been killed, said the Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master. After all, The strongest of the 13 was the Dark Shadow Venerable. Even if the 7 of them joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for the Dark Shadow Venerable. Crack. Just as the Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master said that, several more life slips shattered. The Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master's expression also sank. Other than the Dark Shadow Venerable and Yu Junchang, they're all dead, said the Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master. His words were filled with fury. Of the 13 life slips, 11 had already shattered. Only the Dark Shadow Venerable and Yu Junchang's life slips remained. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely heavy. Fortunately, the Dark Shadow Venerable and Yu Junchang's life slips hadn't shattered yet. Yu Junchang and the Dark Shadow Venerable will definitely be able to kill the 7 of them, muttered the Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master. Next to the 11 broken life slips, one of the life slips suddenly emitted a blinding light and began to tremble. Cracks began to appear on the life slips as if they were about to shatter. How is this possible? Elder Shuai cried out involuntarily. The life slip with the cracks belonged to the Dark Shadow Venerable. Could it be that the Dark Shadow Venerable had encountered an extremely dangerous person and was about to die? Elder Shuai wasn't the only one who was shocked. Even the Godly Destruction Palace's Palace Master was shocked. Is there anything in the 5 Elements mystery realm that can make the Dark Shadow Venerable feel threatened? Muttered the Godly Destruction Palace Master. Hiss. Cracks appeared on the Dark Shadow Venerable's life slip, but it didn't shatter. Everyone was worried as they looked at the life slip of the Dark Shadow Venerable. Please don't shatter, prayed Elder Shuai. The Dark Shadow Venerable was the top assassin of the Blood Moon Assassin Organization. Once the Dark Shadow Venerable died, the Blood Moon Assassin Organization would suffer a great loss. Buzz. A strange sound came from the Dark Shadow Venerable's life slip. Then, the cracks stopped expanding and the life slip returned to its original state. Elder Shuai heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, it didn't shatter." Then, Elder Shuai looked at the Godly Destruction Palace Master and said, "Palace Master, I have to report this to our leader." With that, Elder Shuai left quickly. The Godly Destruction Palace's martial artists looked at each other. Of course, other than the Godly Destruction Palace, the 5 Elements Palace was also paying attention to the life slips of the 7 martial artists. Looking at the 4 shattered life slips, the 5 Elements Palace Master's face turned gloomy. Fortunately, Luo Hong and Luo Yong's life slips didn't shatter. He felt slightly relieved. As long as we can find the Blood Jade Body Flower, we can trap the Dark Shadow Venerable, said the 5 Elements Palace Master. There was a commotion in the outside world, but it was unusually quiet in the 5 Elements mystery realm. After Fang Chen and the other 2 killed the assassins of the Godly Destruction Palace and the Blood Moon Assassin Organization, they quickly moved to another location. After a while, Fang Chen and the other 2 arrived at a strange place. "There are patterns on the ground," Luo Hong suddenly said. Fang Chen stopped and looked over. There were some complicated patterns on the ground and each pattern was a square. At that moment, Fang Chen and the others were in an open space. The open space was surrounded by mountains and the open space was filled with squares. Behind these square lattices, there was a patch of grey, which seemed a little strange. "Where have we come to?" asked Luo Yong, puzzled. "Could there be another world here?" asked Luo Hong. Fang Chen couldn't help but say after seeing these squares. Chapter 868. Looking carefully, there were a total of several squares in the open space. Each square was about 3 meters wide. 9 square lattices were put together to form a square. Hearing Fang Chen say the 9 palaces grid, Luo Hong and Luo Yong looked at Fang Chen in confusion. "Brother Fang, what is the 9 palaces grid? Is it a Dao level formation?" asked Luo Hong. "Yeah, what is the 9 palaces grid?" asked Luo Yong. They had never heard of the 9 palaces grid, so they didn't know what it was. Fang Chen was also a bit surprised. There was actually a 9 palaces grid here. Furthermore, upon closer inspection, he found that this 9 palaces grid was exactly the same as the one on Earth. The only difference was that the pattern on this 9 palaces grid was extremely strange. A puzzle. Fang Chen ignored Luo Hong and Luo Yong and walked over to the 9 palaces grid. He carefully observed the 9 grids and found that there was an individual pattern in each grid, but it was not complete. So Fang Chen guessed that this 9 palaces grid should be a puzzle. Let's give it a try. Fang Chen began to put together the puzzle according to the Fang Chen on Earth. At first, Fang Chen didn't know how to move the squares. He tried releasing his soul to envelop the squares, and then using his mind to move them. A miracle happened. The squares actually moved. Fang Chen was overjoyed. He continued to move the squares. It didn't take long for Fang Chen to piece out the original shape of the pattern. At this time, Fang Chen looked over and found that the pattern inside the 9 palaces grid was actually a middle-aged martial artist. This martial artist was holding a long sword in his hand. He was wearing golden armor, and his eyes were staring into the distance. "Brother Fang, what is this?" asked Luo Hong and Luo Yong hastily. "This person should be the master of the 5 elements secret realm," whispered Fang Chen. Crack. When Fang Chen put the puzzle together, the 9 palaces grid suddenly broke out of the ground. Under the gaze of Fang Chen and the other 2, the 9 palaces grid instantly broke through the ground. It didn't take long for it to surpass Fang Chen and the others. When the 9 palaces grid reached a height of about 3 meters, it instantly stopped. From afar, it looked like a stone pillar, but it was a square stone pillar. "Let's go up and have a look." Fang Chen leaped and instantly leaped onto the 9 palaces grid. Luo Hong and Luo Yong also stepped onto the 9 palace grid. At the same time, a melodious voice entered their ears. "The martial artist who can break through this mechanism is fated with me." As expected. Luo Hong was overjoyed. "Choose one of the squares yourselves. Whether or not you can obtain my inheritance will depend on your luck." The voice gradually weakened and finally disappeared. Fang Chen and the other 2 looked at each other. Luo Hong chose the square of the long sword and sat down cross-legged. Luo Yong pondered for a moment and chose the square of the Jin family. In the end, Fang Chen chose the square of the middle-aged martial artist's head and sat down cross-legged. When Fang Chen sat down, a vast aura immediately drilled into his body. When Fang Chen sensed this aura, he was shocked. This was because the aura that had entered his body had been completely absorbed by the remnant will of Forefather Bronze. What kind of aura is this? Fang Chen had never seen such an aura before and was very surprised. Hiss. After absorbing it for a full hour, this aura finally disappeared. It was also at this moment that a laughter rang out in Fang Chen's mind. Back then, Ancestor Bronze had entered the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron, but later on, the cauldron had shattered and the remnant consciousness of the ancestor had attached itself to Fang Chen's mind. "Ha ha ha, I've finally woken up." Ancestor Bronze laughed heartily. "Ancestor, you're awake." Fang Chen's face lit up with joy. Ancestor Bronze hadn't woken up since the last time he fell into a deep sleep. Fang Chen didn't expect him to wake up after absorbing this aura. "Yes, where is this place? Why is there so much Genesis Chi?" Ancestor Bronze asked happily. "Ancestor, what is Genesis Chi?" Fang Chen didn't understand. "Genesis Chi is the aura that I just absorbed. After an almighty expert dies, although their spirit dissipates, what remains will turn into Genesis Chi and won't dissipate for a long time. Of course, this Genesis Chi is only useful for remnant consciousness like me and has no effect on you," Ancestor Bronze explained. Fang Chen could clearly feel that Ancestor Bronze's remnant consciousness seemed to have grown much stronger. "Ancestor, the reason you woke up was because of the Genesis Chi?" Fang Chen asked. "Of course. If it weren't for this Genesis Chi, I might have fallen into a deep sleep forever," Ancestor Bronze said. After chatting with Fang Chen for a while, Ancestor Bronze asked, "Kid, what is this place?" "Ancestor, have you heard of the Sword Burial Prefecture?" Fang Chen asked. Ancestor Bronze fell silent when he heard this. After a long time, he asked in a low voice, "You said you came to the Sword Burial Prefecture?" Fang Chen nodded. "I was killed by an expert from another region. Fortunately, the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron saved me and brought me to the Sword Burial Prefecture." Fang Chen briefly explained how he came to the Sword Burial Prefecture. After hearing this, Ancestor Bronze sighed a little. He didn't expect so many things to happen on the ancient sword continent while he was in a deep sleep. Fortunately, he had absorbed enough Genesis chi to wake up. As expected of the legendary sword burial prefecture. You've only been here for a short time, but your cultivation has already reached the 5th level of the true martial stage. Ancestor Bronze couldn't help but sigh. Ancestor Bronze was very excited to learn that Fang Chen was in the sword burial prefecture. One must know that Ancestor Bronze had stood at the peak of the ancient sword continent when he was alive, but he had only heard of the sword burial prefecture in legends. He had never seen the sword burial prefecture with his own eyes. He didn't expect to be able to come to the sword burial prefecture after being dead for so many years. The sword burial prefecture is a legendary holy land for sword cultivators. It's very suitable for cultivation, said Ancestor Bronze. While Fang Chen was talking to Ancestor Bronze, Luo Yong and Luo Hong were also receiving the inheritance. The two seemed to have benefited a lot, and their bodies exuded powerful auras. Only Fang Chen didn't gain anything. In fact, it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. At least Ancestor Bronze had woken up. Suddenly, Fang Chen thought of the bead he had obtained in the Jade Moon Icy Lake. He immediately took it out and asked, "Ancestor, do you recognize this bead?" Ancestor Bronze checked the bead in Fang Chen's hand, and his face immediately turned pale with fright. "Where did you find this bead?" Ancestor Bronze hurriedly asked. "In the Jade Moon Icy Lake. I almost froze my soul to obtain it," said Fang Chen. "You're a monster. You even obtained the Jade Moon bead," Ancestor Bronze couldn't help but say. "Ancestor, what's the origin of this bead?" asked Fang Chen. "Do you know how the Jade Moon Icy Lake came about?" asked Ancestor Bronze. Fang Chen shook his head. Ancestor Bronze continued, "The reason the Jade Moon Icy Lake is called the world's ominous pool is because of this Jade Moon bead. The temperature of the Jade Moon frigid water in the Jade Moon frigid pond is extremely high. Ordinary true martial realm warriors will be instantly frozen if they enter it. Even powerful true martial realm warriors will be in danger. And that extreme cold energy comes from this bead. To be more precise, this bead is the core of the Jade Moon Icy Lake," said Ancestor Bronze. He was a bit speechless. Just how had Fang Chen obtained this bead? When the Jade Moon Icy Lake was operating normally, the Jade Moon bead would constantly release extreme cold energy. The closer one got to the bead, the lower the temperature. With Fang Chen's strength, his soul would have been frozen before he could even get close to the Jade Moon bead. However, not only had Fang Chen not died, but he had also obtained the Jade Moon bead. "What a monster," said Ancestor Bronze. Of course, this was because Ancestor Bronze didn't know that Fang Chen had passed the 12th layer tribulation. If he knew, who knew what Ancestor Bronze would think? "Then what's the use of this Jade Moon bead?" asked Fang Chen. "With the Jade Moon bead in hand, it's equivalent to carrying the Jade Moon Icy Lake with you. As long as this Jade Moon bead is placed in an ordinary pool, it will immediately become the terrifying Jade Moon Icy Lake," said Ancestor Bronze. Fang Chen was stunned. He stared at the Jade Moon bead with a burning gaze. Clearly, he hadn't expected this bead to have such a powerful effect. Doesn't that mean he can cultivate in the Jade Moon Icy Lake whenever he wants? Thinking of this, Fang Chen couldn't help but become excited. Fang Chen had already experienced the benefits of the Jade Moon Icy Lake. Chapter 869. Therefore, it was decided that today, tomorrow, and the second day of the first lunar month, a total of 3 days, one update a day. Everyone, please be considerate. The third day of the first lunar month, which was the 10th, would start the update as usual. Chapter 870. Fang Chen had thought that the pearl in the aquamarine wintry pond must be a treasure. However, he did not expect it at all. This pearl was actually the aquamarine pearl that many martial artists yearned for. If he obtained the aquamarine pearl, wouldn't it mean that he could enter the aquamarine wintry pond to cultivate at any time? Thinking of this, Fang Chen's heart was filled with excitement. While Fang Chen was talking with Ancestor Bronze, Luo Yong and Luo Hong woke up one after another. Their auras surged as if they had broken through. "Brother Fang, how's your progress?" Luo Hong asked. "Not bad. You've broken through." Fang Chen could tell at a glance that the two had broken through to LV7 True Martial Realm. Yes, we've both broken through to LV7 True Martial Realm. Luo Yong grinned. After reaching LV7 True Martial Realm, it would not take long for their 5-element sword technique to reach the martial realm. At that time, they could go to the Burial Sword City and compete with the top geniuses in the Burial Sword Province. Boom! Just as Fang Chen and the other two were talking, a sudden rumbling sound was heard. Then, the 9 palaces grid disappeared. Fang Chen and the other two landed on the ground. Luo Hong looked around and said, "Let's go." Fang Chen nodded and a plan came to his mind. After taking a few steps, Fang Chen stopped in his tracks. "Brother Fang, what's wrong?" Luo Hong hurriedly asked when he saw Fang Chen stop. "I have an idea that has a 50% chance of killing Dark Shadow Venerable," Fang Chen said in a deep voice. Dark Shadow Venerable was the biggest threat in the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. There were still a few days before the opening of the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. With Dark Shadow Venerable's strength, it was too easy for him to find them. After Fang Chen learned about the effect of the aquamarine pearl, he came up with an idea to use it to kill Dark Shadow Venerable. "Is there a chance to kill Dark Shadow Venerable?" Luo Hong's eyes flickered as he hurriedly asked. Luo Yong also looked at Fang Chen, anxiously waiting for Fang Chen's reply. "Although I'm not 100% sure, it's very likely," Fang Chen said. "But before that, I need to find an ordinary pool." "That's easy. When I entered the 5 Elements Mysteryland, I found a lake," Luo Yong said immediately. After the 3 of them reached a consensus, they instantly flew away. After 2 hours, the 3 of them arrived in front of a lake. This lake wasn't too big, but it was much bigger than the Jade Moon Wintry Pond. After that, Fang Chen glanced at Luo Yong and Luo Hong and said, "Next, the 2 of you need to lure Venerable Shadow here." Hearing Fang Chen's words, the 2 were a little confused. However, in the end, Luo Hong nodded in agreement. "All right, let's go now. Brother Fang, you make the arrangements." At this point, they had no other choice. After the 2 of them left, Fang Chen began to make arrangements. First, Fang Chen set up a Dao-level formation around the lake. As a formation Saint Master, he could easily set up a formation. After setting up the formation, Fang Chen took out the Jade Moon Pearl and was ready to test whether it could form the Jade Moon Wintry Pond. Just as Fang Chen was about to put the Jade Moon Pearl into the lake, he was suddenly stopped by Ancestor Bronze. "Boy, do you want to die?" Ancestor Bronze scolded. "Ancestor, what's wrong?" Fang Chen was puzzled and looked at each other. "Drip your blood on it first. Otherwise, when the Jade Moon Wintry Pond forms, how will you get the Jade Moon Pearl again?" Ancestor Bronze asked. Fang Chen was stunned for a moment before coming to a sudden realization. Ancestor Bronze meant that after the Jade Moon Pearl was placed in the lake and formed the Jade Moon Wintry Pond, the extremely cold aura could freeze Fang Chen's soul. Although Fang Chen was lucky to get the Jade Moon Pearl last time, if something went wrong this time, he would lose his life. "Can I drip my blood on the Jade Moon Pearl?" Fang Chen didn't understand and asked. "Of course," Ancestor Bronze said. Immediately, Fang Chen began to drip his blood on the pearl. He gently cut his finger and a drop of bright red blood fell on the Jade Moon Pearl. Immediately, the dim Jade Moon Pearl emitted a dazzling light and instantly absorbed the blood. Chapter 871. Back then, there was a problem when Dark Shadow Venerable summoned the Spirit of the Almighty. He used the Blood Jade Body Flower to make up for it and let the altar absorb the Blood Jade Body Flower. Who would have thought that not only was the Blood Jade Body Flower not absorbed, but it was also integrated into the Spirit of the Almighty. When Dark Shadow Venerable integrated with the Spirit of the Almighty, the Blood Jade Body Flower also quietly entered Dark Shadow Venerable's mind and tried to take over his body. Fortunately, Dark Shadow Venerable was unusually strong and the Blood Jade Body Flower did not succeed. However, it was also because of this that the Blood Jade Body Flower hid in Dark Shadow Venerable's soul and was looking for an opportunity to take over his body. Dark Shadow Venerable could not do anything about the Blood Jade Body Flower's actions. Although Dark Shadow Venerable's strength was much stronger after integrating with the Spirit of the Almighty, he could not do anything to the Blood Jade Body Flower. In the end, both of them reached an agreement to live together. At this moment, Dark Shadow Venerable was in a life-and-death situation and the fairy could not care less. Impossible. Dark Shadow Venerable immediately rejected the fairy's words. Unless it was a last resort, he would never let the fairy control his body. Once that happened, there would be unforeseen events. He would let the fairy completely take over his soul and body. His Dark Shadow Venerable's body was trembling non-stop. The jade moon pearl in his clothes was emitting an extremely cold aura. As long as one was not a mystic king realm expert, no one could resist this cold aura. Damn the jade moon pearl! Dark Shadow Venerable roared furiously. At the same time, Luo Hong and Luo Yong, who were hiding in the lake, came out from another direction. They saw Dark Shadow Venerable being wrapped in the cold aura and letting out a miserable cry. On the other hand, Fang Chen was controlling the cold aura to corrode Dark Shadow Venerable. This cold aura is too domineering. Luo Yong could not help but say. Luo Hong was shocked when he saw this. Jade Moon Cold Pond. This lake was just an ordinary pond previously. Why did it turn into the Jade Moon Cold Pond now? What was going on? Could it be because of Brother Fang? Luo Hong did not know that Fang Chen had the Jade Moon Pearl. 1 minute later, Dark Shadow Venerable finally couldn't hold on any longer. As a quasi-king expert, he was actually forced into such a state by a LV5 true martial realm cultivator. His heart was filled with anger. I can't accept this. Dark Shadow Venerable roared furiously. At this moment, Dark Shadow Venerable made a decision. That was to give up control of his body and let the fairy resolve the current crisis. Crash! After the fairy entered Dark Shadow Sovereign's mind, Dark Shadow Sovereign's body instantly turned red. Then, 9 demonic flowers wrapped around Dark Shadow Sovereign's body. Crack! The appearance of the 9 flowers directly blocked the aura of the extreme frost. However, the cold air in the Jade Moon Pearl was too overbearing. The 9 demonic flowers were unable to withstand it. The fairy tore apart Venerable Dark Shadow's clothes, and the Jade Moon Pearl instantly separated from his body. Then, the 9 flowers on Dark Shadow Venerable's body instantly shattered. At this moment, the fairy controlled the Dark Shadow Venerable's body to break through the surface of the lake and soar into the sky. Originally, Dark Shadow Venerable was already unable to resist, but something unexpected happened. This scene made Fang Chen extremely solemn. Fang Chen wanted to take advantage of the situation to pursue, but controlling the Jade Moon Pearl consumed too much of his energy. As a result, he was now powerless. He quietly put away the Jade Moon Pearl and came out of the lake. Brother Fang, how was it? Luo Hong asked anxiously. Dark Shadow Venerable escaped at the critical moment, Fang Chen said softly. Escaped? Luo Yong was a little anxious. There seems to be the shadow of the blood jade body flower in Dark Shadow Venerable's body. Although he escaped, he was seriously injured and won't be able to recover in a short period of time, Fang Chen said. Hearing Fang Chen's words, Luo Hong and Luo Yong secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The 1-month deadline was approaching. Once they left the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, they wouldn't have to be afraid of Dark Shadow Venerable. At this moment, Dark Shadow Venerable was seriously injured and wouldn't be able to appear in a short period of time. Obviously, they were completely safe. It's all thanks to Brother Fang this time, Luo Hong said with a smile and cupped his hands together. Although Luo Hong was full of doubts, he didn't ask. Everyone had their own secrets, and Fang Chen was no exception. There's a Dao level formation here. The 3 of us will wait here for the 5 Elements Mystery Realm to close, Fang Chen said. With the protection of the Dao level formation, the 3 of them wouldn't be in any danger for the time being. The 5 Elements Mystery Realm was a small mystery realm. In less than a month, some of the treasures inside had been plundered. Of course, Fang Chen also gained a lot during this period of time. After Dark Shadow Venerable was seriously injured, he didn't appear again. Time passed bit by bit. When the 1-month deadline came, a deafening sound suddenly resounded in the entire 5 Elements Mystery Realm. At the same time, a huge vortex appeared in the sky above the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. In the middle of the vortex, there was a void stone door. Creak. The void stone door opened. When Fang Chen and the other two saw it, they were overjoyed and immediately entered the void stone door. At this moment, in the outside world, the people of Five Elements Palace and Destruction Shrine were waiting for the younger generation of their respective camps. Crash! The void stone door opened and Fang Chen and the other two appeared instantly. Luo Hong. Seeing the three of them, Five Elements Palace Master was overjoyed. Luo Hong and Luo Yong were the top disciples of Five Elements Palace. It was good that they were fine. After Luo Hong and the other two came out of the void stone door, they looked in the direction of Destruction Shrine and then walked straight to Five Elements Palace Master. Palace Master, let's go back first, Luo Hong said softly. Five Elements Palace Master saw this and his eyes flickered. He then waved his hand and left with Luo Hong and the others. The people of Destruction Shrine stayed behind and waited. In the blink of an eye, they returned to Five Elements Palace. What happened? Where are the others? Five Elements Palace Master asked immediately. Luo Hong smiled bitterly and said, after the people of Destruction Shrine and Blood Moon Assassin Organization entered the Five Elements Secret Realm, they have been killing the disciples of Five Elements Palace. Other than the three of us, the other four have all died. As expected, Five Elements Palace Master said in a deep voice. What about the Blood Jade Array? It's a long story. When Luo Hong heard this, he said slowly. It took him 15 minutes to explain what had happened in the Five Elements Secret Realm. After hearing Luo Hong's story, the upper echelons of Five Elements Palace were overjoyed. I didn't expect you to injure Dark Shadow Venerable and kill the others, Five Elements Palace Master said excitedly. The top geniuses of Destruction Shrine have all died. Their losses are too great. Ha ha ha, not only the geniuses of Destruction Shrine, but even the people of Blood Moon Assassin Organization have died. This is great. Everyone knew that other than Dark Shadow Venerable, the other 12 had all died. This included Yu Junchang, Li Ba, and the other geniuses of Destruction Shrine. The elite assassins of Blood Moon Assassin Organization had all died. Of course, the most important thing was that Dark Shadow Venerable was severely injured. Little friend Fang, it's all thanks to you this time. Five Elements Palace Master cupped his hands and thanked him. He didn't misjudge Fang Chen. If it wasn't for the latter's space-related true meaning, Luo Hong and the others would have died. Palace Master, you're too polite. Fang Chen smiled. Little friend Fang, you've helped Five Elements Palace so much. If you need anything, just tell me, Five Elements Palace Master said. Fang Chen thought for a moment and said, Palace Master, I do have a request. Oh, what is it? Tell me. I want to challenge the Five Elements Bell, Fang Chen said. Five Elements Palace Master had heard that Fang Chen wanted to challenge the Five Elements Bell and obtain the Five Elements Sword technique. Okay, no problem. The Five Elements Bell will open in 3 days. I'll bring you there personally, Five Elements Palace Master said. Seeing this, Fang Chen was very happy. After understanding the situation in the Five Elements Mystery Realm, Five Elements Palace Master let Fang Chen rest first, leaving Luo Hong and Luo Yong behind. Palace Master, once God Destroyer Palace knows that all their disciples have died, they'll be furious. Luo Hong was a little worried. You don't have to worry about this. Before you entered the Five Elements Mystery Realm, I went to look for my old friend and asked him to help me. Five Elements Palace Master said, with him around, God Destroyer Palace won't dare to attack Five Elements Palace easily. The most important thing for a force was the younger generation. Once the younger generation died, it would be impossible for them to rise again in the future. Now that the younger generation of God Destroyer Palace had died, the younger generation of Five Elements Palace had become stronger. This was an opportunity. Outside Five Elements Sword City, the entrance to the Five Elements Mystery Realm gradually disappeared. With a thud, the Five Elements Mystery Realm completely disappeared from this space. At this moment, God Destroyer Palace Master's face was completely gloomy. All the disciples of God Destroyer Palace have died, God Destroyer Palace Master muttered to himself. At this moment, beside God Destroyer Palace Master was a man in a blood-red robe. He wore a bamboo hat and no one could see his face. Beside him, Dark Shadow Venerable looked pale and was supported by 2 assassins from Blood Moon Assassin Organization. PH. Blood Moon Assassin Organization has been screwed over by God Destroyer Palace this time, the man in the blood-red robe said coldly. Hearing this, God Destroyer Palace Master turned around and looked at the man in the blood-red robe angrily. He said coldly, he, Dark Shadow Venerable, a quasi-king expert, was injured to such an extent by trash at LV6 True Martial Realm. God Destroyer Palace has been screwed over by Blood Moon Assassin Organization. This time, Blood Moon Assassin Organization has suffered great losses. God Destroyer Palace has to pay the price, the man in the blood-red robe said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left with the severely injured Dark Shadow Venerable. I'll report this to the President. The President will talk to you personally. God Destroyer Palace Master's face was filled with anger when he saw the Blood Moon Assassin Organization leave. Chapter 872. Within the 5 Elements Sword City, although the God Destruction Hall was furious, the situation had become complicated because of the trip to the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. Originally, the Godly Destruction Temple and the Blood Moon Assassin Organization had teamed up to destroy the younger generation of the 5 Elements Palace and completely damage the 5 Elements Palace's vitality. However, they had not expected Fang Chen to be an anomaly. In the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, not only did they fail to kill the disciples of the 5 Elements Palace, but they had also lost so many of their younger generation. Moreover, the Quasi-King Dark Shadow Venerable had been severely injured. The Blood Moon Assassin Organization was furious and retreated from the 5 Elements Sword City. In an instant, the atmosphere in the 5 Elements Sword City was oppressive. However, the God Destruction Hall did not dare to attack the 5 Elements Palace. This was because the 5 Elements Palace Master had invited a good friend and temporarily intimidated the God Destruction Hall Master. The trip to the 5 Elements Mystery Realm was both happy and sad. The sad ones were the God Destruction Hall and the Blood Moon Assassin Organization, while the happy ones were the 5 Elements Palace. Although 4 disciples had died, Luo Hong and Luo Yong had both stepped into the LV7 True Martial Realm. This made the 5 Elements Palace Master very happy. The 5 Elements Palace Master approved of Fang Chen even more. They thought that Fang Chen was a genius that only appeared once in 100 years and wanted to befriend him. In the beginning, the 5 Elements Palace Master only wanted to use Fang Chen's space-type true meaning to help Luo Hong and the rest. However, after hearing about the situation in the 5 Elements Mystery Realm from Luo Hong, his opinion of Fang Chen changed greatly. Hearing that Fang Chen wanted to challenge the 5 Elements Bell, the 5 Elements Palace Master immediately agreed. There are still 3 days before the 5 Elements Bell opens. At that time, I will personally bring you there, the 5 Elements Palace Master said. Hearing this, Fang Chen grinned and laughed. After that, Fang Chen went to rest, while the 5 Elements Palace Master asked Luo Hong and Luo Yong to understand the situation in detail. The entire 5 Elements Sword City was extremely oppressive. Although the God Destruction Hall was furious, they did not make any moves, which was puzzling. As for Fang Chen, this was not within his scope of consideration. His purpose in coming to the 5 Elements Sword City was to challenge the 5 Elements Bell and obtain the 5 Elements Sword Technique outline. After he obtained the general outline of the 5 Elements Sword Technique, he would leave the 5 Elements Sword City. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the 3rd day, the 5 Elements Palace Master personally brought Fang Chen to a mountain peak. At the peak of this mountain, there was a magnificent bell with the same aura as the ancient golden bell. As expected, Fang Chen thought to himself. Other than the color, it was exactly the same as the ancient golden bell. Fang Chen, this is the 5 Elements Bell. Once it's activated, you can enter by yourself, said the 5 Elements Palace Master. Not long after, the 5 Element Bell opened and Fang Chen entered it. This child's potential is even greater than Luo Hong's. I wonder how many times the 5 Element Bell will ring. The 5 Element Palace Master stared at the 5 Element Bell. Inside the 5 Element Bell, Fang Chen entered the space inside the bell and found the futon. It's exactly the same as the space inside the ancient golden bell, Fang Chen said. Then, he sat down on the cattail hassock with ease. Suddenly, A vast aura surged into his mind. In the next moment, Fang Chen's 5 elements sword technique erupted. Whoosh! In Fang Chen's mind, a little golden man appeared. This little golden man held a long sword and was rapidly performing the 5 elements sword technique. Fang Chen could feel that every sword move this little golden man performed could stir up endless wind and clouds. Hiss! Hiss! In his mind, the sword soul was operating rapidly. The golden heart in his body was also beating rapidly. In order to gain the recognition of the 5-element bell, one had to be a martial artist with heaven-defying talent in sword principle. As for Fang Chen, that was precisely the case. Therefore, after sitting cross-legged for an hour, Fang Chen finally gained the recognition of the 5-element bell. Dong. In the outside world, the 5 elements palace master was standing quietly on the mountain peak, waiting. Suddenly, a vast voice entered his ears. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat and he looked at the 5-element bell with burning eyes. The bell is ringing. Just as the 5 elements palace master was deep in thought, the second bell chime suddenly sounded. Dong dong dong. Then, 3 consecutive bell chimes resounded throughout the entire 5 elements sword city. At this moment, the 5 elements sword city instantly became lively. Someone is challenging the 5-element bell and has caused 5 bell chimes. Who is it that has caused 5 chimes? I heard that it's a disciple of the 5 elements palace. On the street, countless martial artists stopped in their tracks and discussed with each other. Dong dong. When the 6th bell chime sounded, the 5 elements sword city was completely stirred. In the headquarters of the God Extermination Hall, the atmosphere was very solemn. 6 bell chimes. It must be that kid, an elder in the hall said coldly. I heard that this kid is an outsider and has a good relationship with Luo Hong. To be able to cause 6 bell chimes, this kid is very talented. A few elders discussed with each other. Just as the God Extermination Hall master was about to speak, the 7th bell chime suddenly sounded. 7 chimes. The God Extermination Hall master's eyes flickered with killing intent. The younger generation of his God Extermination Hall had all died, but the younger generation of the 5 Elements Palace was still alive. However, before he could react, another 2 bell chimes resounded in the sky. Dong dong. When the 9th bell chime sounded, the 5 Elements Sword City was extremely stirred. Martial artists swarmed towards the mountain peak, wanting to see who could cause the 5 Elements bell to ring 9 times. In the God Extermination Hall, the atmosphere became even more solemn. No matter who this kid is, he must be killed, an elder said coldly. 9 bell chimes. Such talent is definitely the best in the history of the 5 Elements Sword City. That's right. In the past 100 years, there hasn't been anyone who could cause 8 chimes. However, this kid actually caused 9 chimes. The God Extermination Hall master looked around and said, "Go and contact the Blood Moon Assassin organization. The person who caused 9 chimes is the one who severely injured the Dark Shadow Reverend." Yes, Hall Master. The foot of the mountain peak was filled with martial artists. There were also many martial artists on the mountainside. As for the top of the mountain, there was only the 5 Elements Palace Master. Because of his presence, none of the martial artists who had broken through to the martial realm dared to climb the mountain peak. At this moment, the 5 Elements Palace Master's face was filled with shock. He had completely gone crazy. His heart was in turmoil. 9 chimes. He actually caused 9 chimes. The 5 Elements Palace Master cried out. The commotion in the 5 Elements Sword City was not any weaker than the commotion in the Golden Sword City. Everyone in the outside world was extremely shocked. However, this was nothing to Fang Chen. When he was challenging the ancient Golden Bell, he had already caused 9 chimes. Crash. At a certain moment, Fang Chen opened his eyes. His face was full of smiles. There was some information in his mind. The 5 Elements Sword Technique's general outline. The 5 Elements Sword Technique is indeed worthy of being the 5 Elements Sword City's unique skill. Fang Chen could not help but exclaim. The original 5 Elements Sword Technique was only a 7th grade sword technique. After integrating the general outline, it became an 8th grade sword technique. An 8th grade sword technique was already as famous as the ancient Golden Immortal Sword Technique. After obtaining the 5-element sword technique, Fang Chen simply started to cultivate in the 5-element spell. The general outline of the 5-element sword technique was constantly rotating in Fang Chen's mind. At that moment, Fang Chen's body was surrounded by 5 different types of wills, which instantly exploded. The 5-element sword technique was displayed one by one. Finally, the 5-element sword technique was displayed. Then, Fang Chen stood up inexplicably. The general outline of the 5-element sword technique was instantly integrated into the depths of his mind. Fang Chen's eyes flickered. The hidden star sword in his hand was constantly waving. Every sword light that appeared contained a vast aura of the 5 elements. Buzz. When Fang Chen displayed the 5-element sword technique, the 5-element spell shook slightly. However, Fang Chen did not notice it at all. A faintly discernible aura drilled into Fang Chen's body. Suddenly, the sword technique that Fang Chen displayed became more powerful and fierce. Is this the 5-element sword technique? The hidden star sword in Fang Chen's hand swung out at an incredible angle. Suddenly, it turned into a sword blade in the sky and then slashed on the 5-element spell. Suddenly, sparks flew everywhere. Fang Chen put away the hidden star sword and could not help but sigh. Is it because I have practiced the 5-element sword technique before? Fang Chen was a little puzzled. Why did he not encounter any bottlenecks when he cultivated the 5-elemental sword technique general outline? How did he succeed so easily? Now, the 5-element sword technique had completely become an 8th-grade sword technique. It had become a true 5-element sword technique. As long as he could cultivate to the transcendent state, he could go to the burial sword city. It's time to go out, Fang Chen said. When Fang Chen walked out of the 5-element spell, the 5-elements palace master grabbed Fang Chen and instantly disappeared from the mountain peak. When they returned to the 5-elements palace, the 5-elements palace master's face was gloomy. He directly brought Fang Chen to the study. Palace master, what's wrong? Fang Chen asked. Fang Chen, your potential is very monstrous. You caused the 5-element spell to ring 9 times. The God Extermination Palace has their eyes on you, said the 5-elements palace master. The God Extermination Palace? Fang Chen asked in surprise. Although the situation in the 5-elements sword city has stabilized for now, the fact that you caused the 5-element spell to ring 9 times is too shocking. Furthermore, you have a pretty good relationship with my 5-elements palace. The Godly Destruction Palace will definitely not allow such a monstrous character to continue growing. The 5-elements palace master said. It won't be that easy for the God Extermination Palace to kill me, said Fang Chen. He was about to leave the 5-elements sword city. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of the God Extermination Palace. The God Extermination Palace is in a confrontation with my 5-elements palace. If they want to make a move on you, they will need to put in some effort. I'm worried about the Blood Moon Assassin organization, said the 5-elements palace master. Fang Chen fell silent. The Blood Moon Assassin organization would definitely not let the Dark Shadow Venerable go. During this time, you should cultivate in my 5-elements palace. Don't go out, just in case, said the 5-elements palace master. Fang Chen nodded and cupped his hands at the 5-elements palace master before turning to leave. With his understanding of the 5-elements sword art, he was confident that he could cultivate it to the transcendent state within a month. After that, he could leave the 5-elements sword city. I need to be careful of the God Extermination Palace, but the Blood Moon Assassin organization is even more important. On the way back, Fang Chen thought to himself. Chapter 873. The headquarters of the Blood Moon Assassin organization was gloomy and surrounded by dangerous formations. The headquarters was like an iron bucket. Because the assassins of the Blood Moon Assassin organization often took on some killing missions, they had offended many forces. However, it was not without reason that the Blood Moon Assassin organization could survive until now. In the meeting hall of the headquarters, the atmosphere was extremely solemn. A man in a black robe sat on the throne at the top. He was wrapped in a black aura and no one could see his face clearly. On both sides of the hall below, there were more than 10 elders. They were all the founding members of the Blood Moon Assassin organization. Suddenly, an elder said in a deep voice, "Leader, This man is too powerful. He must be eliminated. Yes, according to the report of the spies, he is the one who caused the 5 elements bell to ring 9 times, another founding member said. Causing the 5 elements bell to ring 9 times is a heaven-defying power. It is said that Dark Shadow Venerable was killed by him. Several founding members on both sides of the hall below spoke one after another. Their meaning was very clear. They wanted to kill Fang Chen. Fang Chen's potential was too great. Once he grew up, he would definitely threaten the Blood Moon Assassin organization in the future. Suddenly, the black-robed man on the throne asked in a deep voice, "Have you found out the details of this man?" As soon as the black-robed man spoke, the founding members on both sides of the hall felt oppressed. The leader of the Blood Moon Assassin organization was a very mysterious expert. It was said that no one knew his identity until now. Hearing this, one of the founding members said, "This man has many secrets. We haven't found out yet. Leader, should we kill him or not?" Another founding member asked. After thinking for a moment, the black-robed man said, "Inform Dark Shadow Venerable about this." After that, the leader disappeared. The founding members looked at each other in dismay. In the end, this matter reached Dark Shadow Venerable's ears. Fang Chen caused the 5 elements bell to ring 9 times. At this time, Dark Shadow Venerable had already recovered from his injuries and his strength had improved a lot. However, even the leader of the Blood Moon Assassin organization did not find out. The current Dark Shadow Venerable was no longer the Dark Shadow Venerable of the past. Back then, under the attack of the Jade Moon Pearl, Dark Shadow Venerable suffered an unprecedented crisis. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise and relinquish control of his body to the Blood Jade Bodyflowers Fairy. It was also because of this action that the Flower Spirit was able to take advantage of. It directly took over the Dark Shadow Reverend's body. Even the Dark Shadow Reverend's wounded soul was devoured. After the fairy took over Dark Shadow Venerable's body, it allowed the Blood Jade Bodyflower to completely fuse with his body. He only needed an opportunity to step into the Mystic King realm. The fairy didn't expose its identity, at least not before it had enough strength. The fairy wanted to get rid of all the clues. Fang Chen was one of the targets. This kid's potential is heaven-defying. He must be killed, Dark Shadow Venerable said coldly. Within the 5 Elements Palace, Fang Chen was quietly cultivating in the courtyard. Fang Chen's talent in swordsmanship was heaven-defying. With the help of the Golden Heart and the Sword Soul, Fang Chen cultivated the 5 Elements sword technique very quickly. In just half a month, Fang Chen cultivated the new 5 Elements sword technique to the imperceptible realm. At this time, Fang Chen's cultivation had also reached the peak of LV5 True Martial Realm. Now, he was very confident that he could easily fight against a LV7 True Martial Realm martial artist. If he used the true meaning of void, he could even fight against a LV8 True Martial Realm martial artist. Fang Chen gained a lot in the 1-month trip to the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. In the next half a month, Fang Chen continued to cultivate the 5 Elements sword technique. However, it was obvious that it was useless to continue cultivating. In the end, Fang Chen took out the Jade Moon Pearl again and used the effect of the Jade Moon Cold Pool to stimulate his body. Fang Chen found an ordinary pool in the 5 Elements Palace, put the Jade Moon Pearl in, and entered to cultivate. Finally, after soaking in the Jade Moon Cold Pool countless times, Fang Chen's 5 Elements sword technique reached the perfection of martial realm. Buzz. At this time, the sword soul in Fang Chen's mind made a strange sound. Then, Fang Chen found that his sword true meaning instantly spread out. 3rd grade true meaning? Fang Chen's face was full of excitement. After cultivating for such a long time, his sword true meaning had finally reached the 3rd grade. This also meant that Fang Chen could cultivate the ancient golden invincible swordsmanship. After all, the ancient golden invincible swordsmanship was the secret technique of the city. It was very powerful, and one more technique meant one more guarantee. However, Fang Chen was not in a hurry to cultivate the ancient golden invincible swordsmanship. After cultivating the 5 Elements sword technique to the perfection of martial realm, it was time to leave. One day, Fang Chen found the 5 Elements Palace Master and explained the purpose of his visit. When the Five Elements Palace Master learned that Fang Chen was leaving, he was very regretful. However, he also knew that Fang Chen's stage was in the wider Buried Sword City and not the Five Elements Sword City. Fang Chen, if you need anything in the future, feel free to come to the Five Elements Sword City to find me, the Five Elements Palace Master said immediately. Fang Chen cupped his hands and thanked him. Thank you for your kindness, Palace Master. The Five Elements Palace was very good to Fang Chen. Fang Chen knew how to be grateful, and this kindness was deeply engraved in his heart. After bidding farewell to the Five Elements Palace Master, Fang Chen left the Five Elements Palace's headquarters. Luo Hong and Luo Yong were in seclusion and did not know that Fang Chen was leaving. At this time, in the dark, no one knew that someone was following Fang Chen. After walking for a while in the Five Elements Sword City, Fang Chen left the area of the Five Elements Palace. At this time, Dark Shadow Venerable, who was in the dark, could not help but take action. Kid, today is the day you die. The fairy yelled out in a low voice. Its body appeared behind Fang Chen in a ghostly manner. It reached out with its huge hand, and a vast aura instantly shrouded Fang Chen. Not good. Fang Chen could feel a strong aura behind him. He cursed in his heart and instantly executed his true intent of void. Although the true meaning of void was displayed in time, it still could not completely avoid the fairy's attack. The fairy was a quasi-king expert with 1 foot in the mysterious king realm. It was not something that Fang Chen, a LV5 true martial realm martial artist, could compare with. Pu Fang Chen's arm was injured and his body was exposed from the void. At this time, the fairy's attack came at him again. Dark Shadow Venerable. Fang Chen's face darkened and he roared angrily. At the same time, he immediately displayed the Five Elements Sword technique. When Fang Chen displayed the Five Elements Sword technique, the Five Elements aura spread out from his body and merged with the heaven and earth. No one saw that the Five Elements bell, which stood on a mountain peak in the Five Elements Sword City, trembled quietly. Then, the sound of the bell rang through the sky. Dong. When the Five Elements bell was closed, the sound of the bell never rang. And at this time, the sound of the bell rang through the sky. Why? In the Five Elements Sword City, all the martial artists were alarmed by the sound of the bell. What is going on? Why is the Five Elements bell ringing? The bell is ringing continuously. Such a thing has never happened before. Could it be that the legend is true? What legend is it? On the street, many martial artists looked at the mountain peak where the Five Elements bell was located in shock. At the same time, in the headquarters of the God Destruction Palace, several powerful auras soared into the sky and hovered above the Five Elements Sword City. In the headquarters of the Five Elements Palace, with the Five Elements Palace Master as the leader, many elders were also hovering in the sky. Palace Master, what is going on? That's right. Why is the bell ringing continuously? A few elders did not know what was going on and asked doubtfully. The Five Elements Palace Master stood with his hands behind his back. A trace of surprise flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then, he looked at the God Destruction Palace Master, who was not far away. The two authorities exchanged glances with each other. In the end, the Five Elements Palace Master took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, when the Five Elements bell was closed, the bell rang continuously. There is only one possibility. What is it? An elder asked hurriedly. Do you still remember the legend? The Five Elements Palace Master asked. When everyone heard the legend, they were instantly stunned. Then, the faces of a few older elders changed drastically. Their breathing became a little hurried. Palace Master, could the legend be true? Everyone looked at the Five Elements Palace Master in shock. The Five Elements Sword City did indeed have a long legend. It was said that every time the City Lord of the Five Elements Sword City appeared, the Five Elements bell would ring continuously. Ever since the previous City Lord mysteriously disappeared, the Five Elements bell had not rung like this for a long time. Many people thought that the legend was fake. However, an almighty like the Five Elements Palace Master knew that the legend was true. It was just that the City Lord had not appeared yet. While everyone was still in shock, a resplendent five-colored light suddenly shot out from the Five-Element bell. This five-colored light turned into a five-colored sword blade in the sky. It tore through the void and instantly appeared on a street in the Five Elements Sword City. At this moment, there was a great battle going on here. The battle between Fang Chen and the fairy. In fact, it was not a great battle. This was because Fang Chen was no match for the fairy at all. He had been suppressed by the fairy. If it was not for the true meaning of the void, Fang Chen would have died long ago. Bang! Fang Chen's body appeared from the void again. He was covered in blood and his face was very pale. It was obvious that he was injured. "Kid, your space-type true meaning is not bad," the fairy said eerily. "You are not the dark shadow Venerable." Fang Chen cried out when he heard that. "Could it be that you are the blood jade body flower? Hehe, now that you know my identity, you can't live anymore." The fairy walked towards Fang Chen step by step, wanting to kill Fang Chen. Fang Chen kept retreating. He was very anxious. The battle between the two of them had caused a huge commotion. Logically speaking, the people of the Five Elements Palace should have been alerted. Why hadn't the reinforcements appeared yet? Chapter 874. The five-colored sword blade that was shot out from the Five Elements bell alarmed all the warriors in the Five Elements Sword City. In the sky, the people from the two forces were facing each other. Their eyes were all focused on the five-colored sword blade. The legend is true. "It's really the five-colored sword blade," the Five Elements Palace Master said excitedly. On the opposite side, the God Destruction Palace Master's face was a little gloomy. Whoosh! The two giants moved at the same time. Their figures disappeared instantly as they chased after the five-colored sword blade. In an instant, the two giants appeared at the place where Fang Chen and the fairy were fighting. At this moment, the two giants saw the five-colored sword blade suddenly appear through the void and enter Fang Chen's body. Could it be him? The Five Elements Palace Master was shocked as he looked at Fang Chen in shock. The God Destruction Palace Master was also a little dazed. However, the Five Elements Palace Master's reaction was fast enough. "Stop!" The Five Elements Palace Master roared and waved his hand. Suddenly, a huge handprint pressed down on the fairy. "Oh no!" The fairy yelled and used its shadow-type true meaning to escape instantly. Poochie! With a loud sound, the Five Elements Palace Master's handprint pressed down on the fairy's body. The fairy escaped from the Five Elements Sword City at the cost of losing an arm. The Five Elements Palace Master did not chase after the fairy. Instead, he landed in front of Fang Chen. "Thank you for saving me, Palace Master." Fang Chen cupped his fists and thanked the Five Elements Palace Master. The Five Elements Palace Master did not say a word as he stared at Fang Chen. "Palace Master." Fang Chen reminded him softly. At this moment, the Five Elements Palace Master finally reacted. A bright smile appeared on his face. "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that after so many years, our Five Elements Sword City finally has a city lord." The Five Elements Palatial Master's words puzzled Fang Chen. At this moment, the God Destruction Palace Master landed. Five Elements Palace Master. The Five Elements Palace Master looked at the God Destruction Palace Master and knew what he was thinking. "God Extermination Palace Master, have you forgotten the rules of our Five Elements Sword City?" the Five Elements Palace Master asked solemnly. "Of course I remember the rules. However, my Divine Destruction Palace is unwilling to accept this person as the city lord of our Five Elements Sword City," said the Divine Destruction Palace Master. When the five-colored sword blade entered Fang Chen's body, it meant that Fang Chen had obtained the approval of the Five-Element Bell and became the new city lord of the Five-Element Sword City. This was the rule of the Five-Element Sword City. Both the Godly Destruction Palace Master and the Five Elements Palace Master knew about it. Excited cries could be heard coming from the Five Elemental Bell, as if it was overjoyed. The Five Elements Palace Master's eyes lit up and became even more resolute. Although this person is weak, his potential is extraordinary. He caused the Five Elemental Bell to ring 9 times and obtained the approval of the Five Elemental Bell. He is the new city lord of our Five Elemental Sword City, the Five Elemental Palace Master said in a deep voice. HMPH, a LV5 true martial realm martial artist wants to be the city lord of my Five Element Sword City. Impossible. The Divine Destruction Palace Master said. Moreover, Who knows if this person used some method to absorb the five-colored sword blade? The previous city lords of the five elements sword city would absorb a five-colored sword blade. In a way, the five-colored sword blade was the symbol of the city lord of the five elements sword city. Tampering with the five-colored sword blade? Only the divine destruction palace master could think of such a thing. The five elements palace master sneered and said disdainfully. Seeing the two giants arguing, Fang Chen was a little puzzled. He immediately said, "Palace master, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand a word?" Hearing this, the five elements palace master walked in front of Fang Chen and cupped his hands at Fang Chen. "There is a legend and a rule in my five elements sword city. If someone can obtain the approval of the five elements bell and make it ring continuously, releasing the five-colored sword blade and absorbing it, then he will be the new city lord of the five elements sword city." Hearing the five elements palace master's words, Fang Chen's heart was filled with great astonishment. He vaguely remembered that when the five-colored sword blade had appeared, the five elements sword chi around him had automatically been released. After absorbing the five-colored blade, he felt an inexplicable surge of information in his mind. "You're saying that I'm now the city lord of the five elements sword city?" Fang Chen found it a little hard to believe. The two profound kings had fought for this position for so many years, but neither of them had obtained it. Yet, he had somehow obtained it. "That's right. You're now the city lord of the five elements sword city," said the five elements palace master. "Five elements palace master, do you want to act arbitrarily? This child isn't qualified to be the city lord of the five elements sword city," said the divine destruction palace master coldly. He had coveted the position of city lord for a long time. How could he let a weak cultivator take it away? "Divine destruction palace master, what do you want?" asked the five elements palace master coldly. "If he wants my approval, then he'll have to merge with the five elements bell," said the divine destruction palace master. The five elements palace master was infuriated. The five elements bell was a supreme treasure formed from sovereign Zhongjin's body when he had died. Even now, no one had been able to break it. It was enough to see how strong its defenses were. Even the palace master of the immortal palace probably wouldn't be able to break it. How was it possible to merge with such a supreme treasure? The five elements palace master believed that the divine destruction palace master had deliberately set such harsh conditions to prevent Fang Chen from becoming the city lord. In truth, Fang Chen didn't care about the position of city lord at all. However, old ancestor Bronze's voice rang out in his mind. "Brat, this is an opportunity," said the bronze ancestor excitedly. "Ancestor, I don't understand what you mean," said Fang Chen. "How can you be so stupid? You're in the sword burial province, and your power is weak. You can't fight against the other major powers. If you become the city lord, you'll be able to reorganize the five elements sword city. At that time, you'll be a powerful ruler. Who would dare attack you? Besides, don't you want to kill your way back to the ancient sword continent? Without any power, how will you kill your way back?" After hearing old ancestor Bronze's words, Fang Chen's interest in the position of city lord was piqued. However, there was nothing he could do about the divine destruction palace master's interference. "Divine destruction palace master, what do you mean? I'm afraid no one in the sword burial province can merge with the five elements bell. You're deliberately making things difficult for him," rebuked the five elements palace master. "Five elements palace master, don't think that others can't do what you can't do." The divine destruction palace master sneered. "If this person can merge with the five elements bell, I'll lead the divine destruction palace to obey the city lord's orders. Otherwise, he's not qualified to be the city lord." "You." The five elements palace master was furious. He glanced at Fang Chen with flickering eyes. Dong. Just as the godly destruction hall's master and the five elements palace's master were arguing, a deafening ringing of a bell suddenly resounded through the sky. The entire five elements sword city trembled. What's going on? In an instant, the numerous cultivators in the five elements sword city were all extremely shocked. Even the two profound kings looked at the source of the trembling in surprise. "The five elements bell is acting strangely," said the divine destruction palace master. Dong. The five elements bell trembled faster and faster. In the end, the five elements bell left the mountain and floated in the sky. The entire five elements sword city was in an uproar. The five elements bell had been on the mountain since the sword burial province existed. It had never left the mountain for so many years. But now, it had left the mountain and made a strange sound. What's going on? Even the Divine Destruction Palace Master was a little impatient. He glanced at the five elements Palace Master and released his aura. He was ready to attack at any time. The people of the five elements palace also stared at the five elements bell in the sky. Fang Chen, who was ignored by everyone, sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. His body flickered with five-colored light. Dong. The five elements bell rose from the ground and floated in the sky, shaking the entire five elements sword city. The experts of the Divine Destruction Palace and the Five Elements Palace entered a state of battle. Everyone stared curiously at the five elements bell. What's going on? Why is the five elements bell acting strangely? Asked the Divine Destruction Palace Master. Under everyone's gaze, the five-element bell slowly moved forward in the sky. The five-elements bell is moving. Everyone cried out loudly. The five-elements bell was actually moving? What was going on? Was the five-elements sword city about to be destroyed? Everyone was incomparably shocked. The five elements palace master and the Divine Destruction Palace Master, the two profound kings, soared into the sky, preparing to stop the five elements bell from leaving. Crash! In the blink of an eye, the five elements bell arrived in front of the two giants. The two giants sensed the terrifying aura released by the five elements bell, and their expressions changed. Just as the two giants were about to join forces to stop the five elements bell from leaving, the five elements bell suddenly fell rapidly. Not good. The five elements bell is going to destroy the five elements sword city, someone shouted. Immediately, all the cultivators retreated, afraid of being hit by the five elements bell. Only Fang Chen sat quietly on the ground. The five elements bell fell at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. Not good. Seeing that Fang Chen happened to be below the five elements bell, the five elements palace master shouted. He wanted to stop it, but it was too late. The five elements palace master's face was extremely gloomy. In the depths of the Divine Destruction Palace Master's eyes, there was a flash of joy. If he is hit by the five elements bell, he will definitely die. The Divine Destruction Palace Master thought that this person was too weak and was not qualified to be the city lord. The five elements bell wanted to kill this person. Rumble. When the five elements bell fell on top of Fang Chen's head, the five-colored aura around the latter immediately drilled into the five elements bell. Then, the five elements bell kept shrinking. In the end, while the two giants were still in shock, the five elements bell turned into the size of a thumb and shot into Fang Chen's body. Dong! The five elements bell disappeared, and a terrifying aura instantly spread out from Fang Chen's body. The entire five elements sword city was in shock. What's going on? After the shock, the five elements sword city instantly returned to normal. All the martial artists looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what had just happened. Only the two giants in the sky looked at Fang Chen in shock. How is this possible? The five elements palace master's eyes widened as he looked at Fang Chen in disbelief and cried out. Beside him, the Divine Destruction Palace Master kept shaking his head. He could not accept the fact in front of him. The five elements bell drilled into his body. Buzz. At this moment, a faintly discernible sword chi was emitted from Fang Chen's body, quietly enveloping the entire five elements sword city. An oppressive aura filled the entire five elements sword city. However, until now, ordinary martial artists still did not know what kind of major event had happened. In Fang Chen's body, the five elements bell turned into the size of a thumb and drilled into the golden heart. At this moment, Fang Chen's comprehension of the five elements sword technique had reached an unbelievable level. At the same time, Fang Chen felt that his body seemed to have merged with the five elements sword city. Chapter 875. Fang Chen, who was sitting cross-legged, slowly opened his eyes. In an instant, the entire five elements sword city fell silent. Fang Chen felt that the five elements sword city was filled with a familiar aura. What a comfortable feeling, Fang Chen muttered to himself. He just stood there quietly. However, the two big shots in the sky were horrified. Fusing with the five-element spell, the God Extermination Palace Master finally revealed a shocked expression as he cried out involuntarily. No one knew better than the God Extermination Hall Master how terrifying the five-element spell was. Now, the five-element spell was actually fused with this person's body. This completely overturned his thoughts. The young and frivolous God Extermination Hall Master had not reached the Mystic King realm yet. At that time, he was known as the rising star of the burial sword state. He was extremely bright. His potential was shocking. He was born out of nowhere, and with absolute strength, he successfully stepped into the Quasi-Emperor realm. When he was at the Quasi-King realm, the God Extermination Hall Master came to the five-element sword city. He challenged the five-element spell and obtained the five-element sword technique. At that time, he was young and frivolous. When he heard that the five-element spell was a treasure of heaven and earth, he wanted to take it for himself. In the end, his frivolity almost caused him to die. He tried to take the five-element spell but was sent flying by the bell. If not for the fact that the five-element spell had no killing intent, he would have died. At that time, the God Extermination Hall Master's heart trembled and his soul trembled. From then on, he cultivated wholeheartedly and finally reached the Mystic King realm. After reaching the Mystic King realm, his understanding of heaven and earth became deeper. At that time, the God Extermination Hall Master's strength became even stronger. Once again, he came before the five-element bell, wanting to subdue it. However, once again, he returned without any success. Moreover, as the God Extermination Hall Master became stronger, his vision became even more sinister. He knew how terrifying the five-element spell was. Subsequently, the God Extermination Hall Master established the God Extermination Hall to compete with the Five Elements Palace. He wanted to become the city lord of the Five Elements Sword City and possess the Five Elements spell. However, at this moment, the Five Elements spell was actually fused with a guy at the fifth level of the true martial realm. His thoughts were in complete chaos. Could it be that this person is truly the new city master recognized by the five-element bell? The godly extermination hall's hall master thought to himself. Beside him, the five elements palace master laughed after recovering from his shock. He looked at the divine destruction palace master and laughed. Divine destruction palace master, if I remember correctly, you just said that if this kid fused with the five-element bell, you would lead the divine destruction palace to submit. Is that true? The eyes of the god-destroying palace master flickered as he landed on the ground. The five elements palace master followed closely behind and arrived in front of Fang Chen. Congratulations, City Lord, for becoming the first person in the history of the Five Elements Sword City. The Five Elements Palace Master cupped his hands and congratulated. The Five Elements Palace Master was not lying. Just by fusing with the Five Elements bell, he could be called the first person in the history of the Five Elements Sword City. No one would have any objections. After all, he had fused with the Five Elements bell, a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. After fusing with the Five Elements bell, Fang Chen also understood the legend of the Five Elements Sword City. The Divine Destruction Palace Master's eyes flickered. Finally, he flicked his sleeves and turned to leave. The Divine Destruction Palace Master could not accept that a brat was the city master of the Five Elements Sword City. However, he did not dare to openly refute the rules of the Five Elements Sword City, so he could only remain silent. On this day, the Five Elements Sword City was in an uproar. The Five Elements Palace Master announced to the public that the Five Elements Sword City had a new city master. At first, everyone was puzzled and doubtful. However, after learning that Fang Chen had been recognized by the Five Elements bell and had fused with the five-colored sword blade, no one doubted it anymore. A young man at LV5 True Martial Realm had become the city master of the Five Elements Sword City. This news was like a whirlwind that quickly swept through the entire Burial Sword Province. The Five Elements Sword City was extremely lively. When the people of the Blood Moon Assassin organization learned of this, their hearts were extremely gloomy. Their plan was to assassinate this brat. Now, this brat had actually become the city master of the Five Elements Sword City. This made it even harder for the Blood Moon Assassin organization to act. However, after a discussion, the Blood Moon Assassin organization still decided to kill this brat. However, because this brat had always been in the Five Elements Palace, the leader of the Blood Moon Assassin organization personally took action this time. No one had seen the leader take action for many years. With the leader taking action this time, Fang Chen would definitely die. On this day, the leader came to the Five Elements Sword City with a shocking aura. Immediately, the Divine Destruction Palace Master and the Five Elements Palace Master were alerted. Crash! The two profound kings instantly soared into the air and floated in the air. The Five Elements Palace Master stared at the man shrouded in black fog and asked coldly, "Who are you?" His intuition told him that this person's strength was extremely terrifying. Even he was a little afraid. "My goal this time is Fang Chen. Hand over Fang Chen and I'll leave. Otherwise, the Five Elements Sword City will be bathed in blood," the leader said in a hoarse voice. His voice contained a soul attack that instantly spread out. Bang! The Five Elements Palace Master's expression changed. His wrist shook, and countless explosions rang out in front of him. "Fang Chen is the city lord of my Five Elements Sword City. How can I hand him over to you?" A smile flashed across the eyes of the Godly Extermination Palace Master, who was standing not far away. He already knew the background of this person. Other than the mysterious leader of the Blood Moon Assassin organization, who else would dare to brazenly ask for someone from the Five Elements Palace and even specifically ask for Fang Chen? It's said that this person's strength is heaven-defying. Perhaps even the Five Elements Palace Master isn't his match. Him coming here has saved me quite a bit of trouble, thought the Divine Destruction Palace Master as he watched the show from the side. Crash! The mysterious leader's aura immediately spread out. The entire sky above the Five Elements Sword City was covered in black fog. The atmosphere was incomparably heavy. "Just who are you?" asked the Five Elements Palace Master. "Blood Moon." The mysterious leader only said 2 words, but the Five Elements Palace Master's expression completely changed. His pupils instantly shrank. The mysterious leader of the Blood Moon Assassin organization. The Five Elements Palace Master said word by word. He was incomparably shocked. He didn't expect the mysterious leader to actually come here. The Blood Moon Assassin organization was a very mysterious force. Although on the surface, it couldn't be compared to any other city. However, no one dared to provoke the Blood Moon Assassin organization. This time, the leader of the Blood Moon Assassin organization had personally come for Fang Chen. His intention was clear. He wanted to kill Lin Fan. "Hand over Fang Chen. I don't want to repeat myself." The Blood Moon leader was very domineering. He didn't give the Five Elements Palace Master any room for negotiation. "Blood Moon leader, you should know that Fang Chen is the new city lord of my Five Elements Sword City. If you want me to hand over the city lord, no one in the city will agree," said the Five Elements Palace Master coldly. "It seems that there's nothing to say," sneered the Blood Moon leader. In the next moment, the Blood Moon leader appeared in front of the Five Elements Palace Master. Bang! It was just a light palm strike, but it made the Five Elements Palace Master's body retreat continuously. Then, the Blood Moon leader's gaze fixed on a courtyard in the Five Elements Palace's base camp. The Blood Moon leader reached out his hand and grabbed at Fang Chen. However, just as Fang Chen's hand was about to touch Fang Chen, a vicissitude voice suddenly came from the void. Then, a phantom appeared. When the phantom appeared, the sky and earth changed color. The Blood Moon leader's phantom hand was instantly shattered. The Blood Moon leader's face changed drastically as he looked at the sky. This sudden change shocked the Five Elements Palace Master and the Godly Destruction Hall Master. Fang Chen has obtained the recognition of the Five Elements Bell and merged with the Five-colored sword blade. He has become the new city lord of the Five Elements Sword City. "You are not to offend him," the phantom said in a deep voice. The Blood Moon leader's eyes fixed on the sword-shaped palace symbol on the phantom's sleeve, and his eyes narrowed. That symbol was too frightening. The person who had that symbol was from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace. His words represented the Sword Burial Celestial Palace. Even the people from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace are alarmed. The Five Elements Palace Master was shocked, but he soon understood. The Sword Burial Celestial Palace overlooked the entire Sword Burial Prefecture, so they must be very aware of the Five Elements Bell's actions. Moreover, all the major cities in the Sword Burial Prefecture were under the control of the Sword Burial Celestial Palace. In a way, the city lord of each city was also a part of the Sword Burial Celestial Palace. This time, the people from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace had come just after Fang Chen had obtained the recognition of the Five Elements Bell. The significance of this was self-evident. Senior, this lad, even the Blood Moon leader was wary of this person. He was about to speak when the Phantom spoke again. Since Fang Chen is the city lord of the Five Elements Sword City, he has the protection of the Sword Burial Celestial Palace. If any mystic monarch martialists disregard their status and attack him, they will bear the consequences. After saying that, the Phantom disappeared. The Blood Moon leader's expression kept changing. The Phantom's words made him feel helpless. He originally thought that he could kill Fang Chen, but unexpectedly, there were twists and turns. The appearance of the people from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace meant that he couldn't kill Fang Chen. The people from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace said that mystic monarch realm martialists can't attack, but they didn't say that true martial realm martialists can't attack. Could it be? The Blood Moon leader's eyes flickered as he thought to himself. However, he still left in the end. The crisis regarding Fang Chen disappeared just like that. After this incident, the Destruction Divine Palace didn't dare to act rashly. After all, Fang Chen had been recognized by the Sword Burial Celestial Palace and had the highest status in the Five Elements Sword City. The Five Elements Palace Master was the happiest. The appearance of the people from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace, especially to protect Fang Chen, made him feel relieved. Since the people from the Sword Burial Celestial Palace have spoken, the Blood Moon leader won't dare to act rashly. He just needs to be wary of the true martial realm martialists, the Five Elements Palace Master muttered to himself. Fang Chen sat cross-legged in the Five Elements Palace. He had witnessed everything with his own eyes. At this moment, he clenched his fists and his face was extremely gloomy. Chapter 876. In the Sword Burial State, there was a vast palace on top of a mountain shrouded in mist. Normally, no one would be able to get close to the mountain. The palace on top of the mountain was the Sword Burial Palace. It was the most mysterious faction in the Sword Burial State and the one with the most real power. Inside the palace, an old man sat casually by the side of a pond. His expression was gentle, and he didn't emit any aura. He took off his shoes and dipped his feet into the water. It was strange. There wasn't a single fish in the pond at first. But when the old man dipped his feet into the water, a mysterious power seemed to be injected into the water. Fish continued to gather around the old man's feet. They were jumping around happily. If there was an almighty here, they would be shocked. The water in the pond in front of the old man was not ordinary water at all. It was the Jade Moon divine water that made people tremble in fear. What was Jade Moon sacred water? Everyone knew about the Jade Moon frost water. The Jade Moon pearl contained an extremely cold aura that could turn an ordinary pond into a Jade Moon frost pond. The Jade Moon frost water's effects were well known, and everyone yearned for it. However, very few people knew about the Jade Moon holy water. The Jade Moon pearl that made people's hearts palpitate was produced from the Jade Moon holy water. Strictly speaking, the Jade Moon sacred water was an upgraded version of the Jade Moon frost water. If the Jade Moon frost water was a child, then the Jade Moon sacred water was an adult. The Jade Moon sacred water was 10,000 times stronger than the Jade Moon frost water. Even the souls of some mystic kings would be instantly frozen if they touched the Jade Moon divine water. After the baptism of time, the Jade Moon frost water would produce a large number of Jade Moon pearls. At a closer look, there were countless pearls scattered in the pond before the old man. These pearls were the Jade Moon pearls. The fact that the old man could play with the fish so easily in the Jade Moon sacred water was enough to show his strength. Other than the Jade Moon sacred water, there were also the fishes that could live freely in the water. They were the legendary divine Kai-gathering fish. The divine Kai-gathering fish could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and they lived in the Jade Moon sacred water. It was said that if a cultivator had a divine Kai gathering fish, their cultivation could reach 10,000 feet in a day. It was very shocking. Countless cultivators couldn't see one in their entire lives. However, there were countless of them before his eyes. While the old man was playing with the divine Kai gathering fish, an old man suddenly rushed in. "Palace Lord, the matter has been settled," the old man said softly. The old man nodded and said, "How is he?" "Palace Master, you're right. His 5 elements sword art has already reached the perfection stage. It won't be long before he arrives at the burial sword city," the old man said. "All right, you may leave." The palace lord waved his hand. 5 elements sword city. After thinking for a long time, Fang Chen finally made a decision. He wanted to leave the 5 elements sword city. Although he was the city lord, he was too weak to protect himself. Although the expert from the sword-burying immortal palace had forced the Blood Moon leader to retreat, he couldn't protect him forever. Although he had said that profound kings couldn't make a move against him, Lin Yun didn't dare to do anything to him. However, there were plenty of genuine martial realm experts. The Blood Moon Assassin organization had several experts in the true martial realm, enough to kill Fang Chen. Therefore, in order to protect himself, Fang Chen was prepared to leave the 5 elements sword city. "City Lord, you're leaving?" asked the 5 elements palace lord. Fang Chen nodded and said, "It's a bit dangerous for me to stay in the 5 elements sword city. It's better to go to the burial sword city." "But you're the city lord of the 5 elements sword city. The city hasn't been unified yet." Fang Chen also understood the 5 elements palace lord's meaning. "I'm leaving this time to increase my strength. One day, I'll arrive at the 5 elements sword city with absolute strength. At that time, I'll unify the 5 elements sword city. I'll personally kill anyone who wants to kill me. If anyone refuses to submit, I'll use my fist to make them submit." Fang Chen said in a deep voice. "That's true. If the city lord continues to stay in the 5 elements sword city, the Blood Moon Assassin organization will definitely not let you go," said the 5 elements palace lord after pondering for a moment. After speaking to the 5 elements palace lord, Fang Chen issued his first order as the city lord of the 5 elements sword city. From today onwards, the 5 elements palace lord would temporarily take over his duties as the city lord. When this news spread, the 5 elements sword city was in an uproar. All the cultivators were discussing Fang Chen. As for the Blood Moon Assassin organization, they were also secretly making preparations. As for the Divine Destruction Palace, after this incident, they didn't dare to act rashly. The Sword Burial Immortal Palace recognized Fang Chen. Many cultivators in the 5 elements sword city also supported Fang Chen incomparably. Since he issued an order as the city lord, there were naturally countless people supporting him. After issuing this order, Fang Chen quietly left the 5 elements sword city. "I'm looking forward to the day you grow up." The 5 elements palace lord vaguely felt that this city lord wasn't ordinary. The birth of a new city lord in the 5 elements sword city shocked the entire burial sword province. Many cities were inquiring about the background of this new city lord. However, in the end, they found nothing. After Fang Chen left the 5 elements sword city, he used the true meaning of void to quickly travel through the void. However, he was still targeted by the assassins of the Blood Moon Assassin organization. Whoosh, whoosh. Fang Chen's speed was extremely fast. Every time he appeared, he would instantly hide in the void again. After coming to the burial sword province, Fang Chen's frequency of using the true meaning of void had obviously increased. The reason was that he was weak. Of course, the increase in frequency of using the true meaning of void also allowed Fang Chen to have a deeper understanding of the true meaning of void. Currently, his true meaning of void had already reached the peak of the 1st grade. However, he didn't dare to step into the 2nd grade. This was because without the guidance of an almighty, the true meaning of void would easily go down the wrong path. Back then, the Heavenly Void King had gone down the wrong path because he didn't have the guidance of an almighty. It had fallen from a supreme true meaning to a high-grade true meaning. Therefore, Fang Chen had been suppressing it all this time. After an hour, Fang Chen had already left the 5 elements sword city and arrived at the entrance of a mountain range. It was also at this time that the Blood Moon Assassin organization couldn't help but make a move. Whoosh! Suddenly, a tyrannical attack appeared in the sky. Seeing this, Fang Chen's figure flashed and disappeared into the mountain range. "Kid, you're dead." A furious roar was heard. Fang Chen instantly realized that the person chasing after him was the Dark Shadow Venerable. No, to be exact, it should be the Blood Jade Bodyflower's spirit. Damn it. Fang Chen was forced to reveal his true form by the fairy. He instantly felt an oppressive force. Swoosh. Suddenly, a blood-red aura surged out. The fairy activated all of its power and merged with the Dark Shadow Venerable to release its strongest power. A beautiful red flower appeared in the fairy's palm. This was the Blood Jade Bodyflower's true form. Just as Fang Chen was about to hide in the void, the Blood Jade Bodyflower in the fairy's palm suddenly turned into a blood-red stream of light and shot directly towards Fang Chen. Bang! Xiao Chen executed the 5-element sword technique at full power, and a 5-colored sword appeared. Bang! It blocked the scarlet light with great difficulty. As for Fang Chen's body, he was instantly sent flying. Run! Fang Chen didn't say anything else. He activated the true meaning of the void and escaped. Trying to escape. The fairy sneered and stretched out its hand. The power of a quasi-king expert instantly erupted. Countless blood-red branches appeared around its body and wrapped around Fang Chen's body in the blink of an eye. Not good. Fang Chen shouted in his heart. He was extremely anxious. Let's see who can save you this time. The fairy sneered. In its eyes, Fang Chen was definitely going to die. I can't die. Fang Chen's eyes flashed with determination as he said in a deep voice. He originally thought that with the true meaning of the void, he could easily leave the 5-element sword city. But now, it seemed that he was too naive. This damn fairy. If he didn't die, he would definitely kill it in the future. Just as the blood-red branches wrapped around Fang Chen, the latter's body emitted a vast void aura. Breakthrough. Fang Chen's eyes were filled with a scarlet color. He was breaking through his true meaning of the void. A crazy void aura emerged from his body. At this moment, the true meaning of the void was activated to the extreme. Now, he couldn't care less. Only by breaking through the true meaning of the void could he have a chance of survival. Seeing this scene, the fairy was a little surprised. Immediately, it felt a sense of oppression. The true meaning of the void in Fang Chen's body was extremely crazy. Originally, the true meaning of the void had reached the limit of a breakthrough and had been suppressed by Fang Chen. At this moment, Fang Chen gave up on suppressing it. The true meaning of the void naturally broke through to the second-grade realm. Buzz. Chapter 877. The Dark Shadow Venerable was originally a quasi-king expert who had been searching for a way to step into the Mystic King realm. However, he was unable to step into the Mystic King realm. After fusing with the yin soul of an almighty, his strength skyrocketed and he almost stepped into the Mystic King realm. However, due to the obstruction of the Blood Jade Bodyflower, he was stuck at the quasi-king realm. And now, the aura emitted from Fang Chen's body made an expert like the fairy feel danger. What's going on? The fairy squinted his eyes and stared at Fang Chen. At the same time, his hands were constantly unleashing his most powerful attacks. In front of absolute strength, everything was meaningless. As long as he could kill Fang Chen, everything would be over. Whoosh! The fairy's attacks bombarded Fang Chen's body crazily. However, he was surprised to find that Fang Chen's body, which was originally entangled by the blood-red branches, was gradually fading and finally disappearing into the void. Space-type true meaning. The fairy's eyes flickered and he felt uneasy. There was a faint oppressive feeling in the air. He did not know if it was because of Fang Chen. The fairy attacked the surrounding void crazily, trying to kill Fang Chen. At this moment, in the void, a majestic aura of the void exploded around Fang Chen's body. His aura was skyrocketing crazily. Supreme true meaning. Without any guidance from an almighty, it forcefully broke through to the second grade. Fang Chen did not care about the risk of the true meaning of the void evolving into other true meanings. At this moment, his only goal was to escape from this place. Buzz. A ripple appeared in the void. It raised the true meaning of the void in his body to the extreme. Then, Fang Chen pushed the true meaning of the void to the extreme. His body flashed and he quickly left, trying to escape. In the process of Fang Chen's escape, the ripple in the void was discovered by the fairy. The latter roared and chased after him. However, after chasing for a while, the fairy stopped in its tracks. His face was ashen, and he was furious. He was a quasi-king level expert, yet a mere LV5 true martial realm martial artist had managed to escape from under his nose. After an unknown period of time, a ripple appeared in a certain part of the void. Then, Fang Chen's figure appeared in an instant. At this moment, his forehead was covered in sweat, and his clothes were completely soaked. Clearly, it was caused by overuse of the true will of the void. Fang Chen panted as he sat down on the ground. He looked around and found that there was no danger, so he started to rest. While resting, Fang Chen secretly observed his own true meaning of void. He discovered that after the true intent of the void had reached the second grade, its power had increased tremendously. The effect of concealing the void had become even more obvious. The true meaning of void hasn't changed. Fang Chen's eyes flickered as he muttered to himself. Without the guidance of an almighty, it was very easy for a transcendental true meaning to change during a breakthrough. After Fang Chen checked, he found that the true meaning of void hadn't changed, and a smile appeared on his face. Lucky. Fang Chen thought to himself. After a short rest, Fang Chen continued on his way. He secretly swore that when he returned to the Five Elements Sword City, it would be the day he killed the fairy. However, Fang Chen didn't notice that when he was flying, the true meaning of void in his body had quietly changed. In the dense void aura, there was some inexplicable aura. Of course, Fang Chen didn't know all of this. Even if he observed carefully, he wouldn't be able to discover it. After being ambushed by the fairy, Fang Chen had successfully escaped. After that, Fang Chen had been hurrying on with his journey. Not long after, he once again arrived at the edge of the buried Sword City. Buried Sword City. Looking at the ground in front of him, Fang Chen was extremely excited. Last time, he had met the people of the buried Sword Immortal Palace at the edge of the buried Sword City. Moreover, he had learned some secrets about the buried sword state. I must get the recognition of the buried sword emperor as soon as possible. Fang Chen thought to himself. Star and Moon's corpse had been sealed by Fang Chen with a special method, so it wouldn't rot for the time being. However, no one knew what would happen after a long time. Therefore, Fang Chen had to get the recognition of the buried sword emperor as soon as possible, and then ask the buried sword emperor to help revive Star and Moon. Fang Chen quickly came to the edge of the buried sword city and then prepared to pass through the seal. Suddenly, the five elements aura around him burst out, enveloping Fang Chen and directly entering the buried sword city. After passing through the seal, Fang Chen found a very magnificent city. This city was extremely spacious. Compared to the five elements sword city, it was many times larger. There was a golden plaque hanging above the city gate, and there were 3 words written on it, Buried Sword City. As expected of the Buried Sword City. When Fang Chen saw the 3 words Buried Sword City, his heart trembled. These 3 words contained a very powerful sword intent. A slightly weaker martialist would definitely not be able to withstand this kind of mental shock. Fang Chen pondered for a moment before arriving outside the Buried Sword City. Finally, he entered the city. After arriving at the Buried Sword City, Fang Chen realized why this was the central core city of the Buried Sword State. Looking at the streets, every martialist was at least at the 6th level of the true martial realm. Fang Chen's strength could be considered the weakest. Although there were very few martialists in the Buried Sword City, the quality was very high. While Fang Chen was still in shock, someone suddenly patted Fang Chen's shoulder and asked in a low voice, "Brother, you must have just arrived in the Buried Sword City, right?" When Fang Chen heard this, he turned his head and saw a scholarly man wearing white robes. He had a simple and honest smile on his face. "How did you know?" asked Fang Chen in response. "I saw that brother had just entered the city and had been watching the entire time, so I took the liberty to ask." The scholarly man gently waved the fan in his hand with a slight smile. Fang Chen nodded. "That's right. This is my first time in the buried sword city. Could it be that you are also here? The scholarly man nodded. I am from Sword Calligraphy City. This is my first time in the buried sword city. Fang Chen. Fang Chen said his name. He felt that this person was a bit interesting. Brother Fang, this is both our first time in the buried sword city. How about we travel together? Asked the scholarly man. The buried sword city was very large, and there were many powerful martialists. Newcomers were the weakest, so they urgently needed to find a backer. As for the scholarly man, he felt that Fang Chen wasn't ordinary, so he wanted to befriend him. All right, said Fang Chen. It just so happened that he didn't know anything about the buried sword city. It said that every newcomer has to go to the registration area to register their status. Let's go over right now, said the scholarly man. Fang Chen nodded. I still don't know your name. Everyone calls me a scholar. The two of them walked down the wide street toward the registration area. Within the buried sword city, all martial artists had to register. If a martial artist didn't register at the registration area and was discovered by the city lord's mansion, the consequences would be severe. A moment later, Fang Chen and the scholar arrived at the registration area. This place was very quiet. There were only a few people here and there. Why are there so few people here? Fang Chen was a bit puzzled. Brother Fang, this is the registration area. Only newcomers need to register, so there are naturally very few martial artists here, said the scholar. Fang Chen came to a realization and entered the registration area. Are the two of you here to register your status? Asked a staff member as soon as they entered the registration area. Yes, we're here to register, said the scholar. Please come over here. The staff member led Fang Chen and the scholar to a table. Name, a warrior on the stool asked mechanically. Book Maniac. Cultivation base. 7th stage of the true martial realm. Where are you from? Sword City. After the staff member finished asking the scholar, he recorded a bit of information and then injected it into a token. Finally, he handed the token to the scholar. This is your status token. Keep it safe. If you lose it, remember to come here to replace it. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. After speaking, the staff member looked at Fang Chen. Chapter 878. Before the staff member could ask, Fang Chen told him his information. Originally, the staff member was a little impatient and wanted to quickly register and go to rest. However, when he heard the two words Fang Chen, his expression changed slightly. When the words 5 Elements Sword City came out of Fang Chen's mouth, the staff member's expression finally changed greatly. He looked at Fang Chen with a hint of fear in his eyes. Then he said with a smile, so it's Brother Fang. This is your identity token. The staff member's attitude towards Fang Chen was completely different from before, which made Fang Chen stunned. After the two of them received their identity tokens, they turned and left. Brother Fang, I didn't expect you to be the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City. The scholar looked at Fang Chen with burning eyes. Previously, the Sword Burial Immortal Palace announced that Fang Chen was the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City. This piece of news was known to everyone. And now, the scholar was actually with the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City. Although he was surprised by Fang Chen's cultivation had surprised him. However, the identity of the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City was enough to let Fang Chen walk sideways in the Sword Burial City. I really couldn't tell. The scholar grinned. Fang Chen was also stunned, and then he shook his head helplessly. His identity had actually spread to the Sword Burial City. However, Fang Chen didn't care. Anyway, this was the Sword Burial City, and he didn't have to be afraid of anyone. However, just as Fang Chen was chatting with the scholar, several figures appeared one after another at the registration office, preparing to register as a martial artist. When Fang Chen saw this, a smile appeared on his face. The current Fang Chen wasn't wearing a mask, so these people couldn't recognize him. If Brother Gujian is here, we can register together. Fatty Li said regretfully when he passed by Fang Chen. Beside him were He Shualin, Wu Li, and Luo Bairen. Their cultivation bases had improved significantly, and their ancient golden indestructible sword techniques had reached the level of manifestation. Soon, they were in buried Sword City. Fang Chen did not reveal his identity. Now was not the time. In the blink of an eye, Fatty Li and the other three finished registering. At this moment, Fang Chen and the scholar were also preparing to leave. However, right at that moment, a sinister voice entered everyone's ears. I was wondering who it was. So it's the trash from Golden Sword City. As soon as this voice fell, several figures appeared. Fang Chen stopped and looked over. He discovered that these people were from Azura Sword City. The person who spoke was Azura Sword Sect's Xi Ming. The person who had been defeated by Wu Li. A defeated opponent dares to boast so shamelessly, Wu Li said coldly. The people of Golden Sword City are all trash. Jiyu Yuming also spoke up. The people from Golden Sword City, led by Luo Bairen, were all livid. Trash like you dares to come to Burial Sword City and make a fool of yourselves? The people from the Azura Sword Sect were extremely arrogant. Not far away, Fang Chen and the scholar stood quietly. These people are a bit sinister. They're deliberately provoking those people so they can attack first, said the scholar. Why is that? Fang Chen didn't understand. The rules of Burial Sword City are strict. Fighting is forbidden in public. If you do, the guards will immediately arrive. When the time comes, those people from Golden Sword City will definitely be punished. If it's light, they'll have to work in the mines for 100 years. If it's heavy, they'll have their cultivation crippled on the spot, said the scholar. Fang Chen's face was ashen. He was a bit angry. He had cultivated in Golden Sword City before, and the sword arena had given him a lot of resources. Fatty Li and the others also had a good relationship with him. How could he just watch as they were framed? While Fang Chen was speaking to the scholar, the people from Golden Sword City were completely infuriated. Fatty Li and the others didn't understand the rules and were about to attack. Could it be that the Azura Sword Sect's people only know how to talk? Fatty Li glared at Lu Tianzi. You people from Golden Sword City don't have the qualifications to make me attack, said Lu Tianzi arrogantly. Boom. Luo Bairen's explosive temper was completely infuriated. He immediately erupted with a majestic aura, preparing to attack the Azura Sword Sect's people. However, at this moment, Fang Chen stopped Luo Bairen's impulsiveness. Brother, what's the point of bickering with a few dogs? Fang Chen said with a chuckle as he walked towards Luo Bairen and the others. Phut! Hearing Fang Chen's words, Fatty Li, He Shualin, and the others all burst into laughter. Even Luo Bairen, who was about to attack, stopped. He grinned and said, You're right. It's not worth it to fight with a few dogs. Who are you? How dare you meddle in our Azura Sword Sect's matters? Seeing that Fang Chen had appeared and ruined their plans, Lu Tianzi and the others immediately asked coldly with ashen faces. You don't have the qualifications to know my name, said Fang Chen softly. The scholar was a bit puzzled. Why would Fang Chen help them out? However, he still quietly walked over to Fang Chen and whispered a few words into Fang Chen's ear. After hearing the scholar's words, Fang Chen's eyes lit up. Everyone, I don't like these dogs. Can you let me teach them a lesson? Said Fang Chen to Luo Bairen and the others. Luo Bairen and the others were flabbergasted. They didn't know this person, so why would he attack them? Luo Bairen and the others exchanged glances. As for Lu Tianzi and the others, their expressions completely sank. Brat, are you courting death? Asked Lu Tianzi icily. Your grandpa is standing right here. Do you dare attack me? Sneered Fang Chen. Lu Tianzi and the others were even more infuriated, but they didn't have any intention of attacking. As expected, the Azura Sword Sect's people are all hypocrites. They intentionally infuriated Golden Sword City's people so that they could attack you. Then the guards would cripple your cultivation bases. You really are vicious, said Fang Chen. What does that have to do with you? Roared Jiyu Yuming. His plan had almost succeeded, but this brat had ruined it. He was furious. Hearing Fang Chen's words, Luo Bairen and the others' expressions changed slightly. They felt a bit of lingering fear. Then they furiously glared at Lu Tianzi and the others. Brat, just who are you? asked Lu Tianzi icily as he stared at Fang Chen. How did I ruin your plan? Were you trying to find out who I was so you could find a chance to retaliate against me in the future? Sneered Fang Chen. I'm standing right here. If you have the ability, then come attack me. Fang Chen's expression was extremely exaggerated. Lu Tianzi and the others had an urge to directly cut off his head. However, they also knew Burial Sword City's rules, so they didn't dare act on their own. Brat, I'll remember you. I'll definitely make you pay back 100 times over for what happened today. Lu Tianzi prepared to leave. However, at this moment, Fang Chen's figure drifted to the side of Lu Tianzi and the others. They were caught off guard and were instantly slapped in the face. Ah! Lu Tianzi and the others had never been humiliated like this before. They were infuriated. You're courting death. Courting death? Trash like you aren't qualified for me to attack, said Fang Chen disdainfully. He was intentionally humiliating Lu Tianzi and the others. But these people were actually quite calm. They were afraid of violating the rules, so they hadn't attacked. However, did that mean Fang Chen wouldn't be able to do anything to them if they didn't attack? Fang Chen turned his head to give the scholar a strange look. Then he swaggered over to Lu Tianzi. Bang! Fang Chen circulated his spiritual qi and gathered it in his fist. Then he punched Lu Tianzi. Lu Tianzi's body was sent flying by Fang Chen. He hadn't expected Fang Chen to actually dare attack him. Brat, you're dead. The guards will be here soon. Lu Tianzi crawled up from the ground, a crazed smile on his face. As for Luo Bairen and the others, they were worried for Fang Chen. Brother, thank you for saving us. However, because of us, you ended up being punished. We are truly apologetic, Luo Bairen said. Fang Chen waved his hand, stopping Luo Bairen from speaking. His eyes were filled with disdain as he looked at Lu Tianzi. In his eyes, Lu Tianzi was very stupid. The scholar narrowed his eyes. He wasn't worried at all that Fang Chen would be punished by the guards. Not long after, a group of guards covered the sky and covered the earth. Chapter 879. The guards' auras were incomparably powerful. Their faces were filled with displeasure. To dare attack someone in Burial Sword City, these people were simply tired of living. Seeing the arrival of the guards, Lu Tianzi shouted loudly, wanting the guards to cripple Fang Chen's cultivation. The guards walked over and looked at the two of them. What's going on? Sir, I'm here to register my identity, but this person attacked me for no reason, Lu Tianzi said before anyone else could. Take out your identity medallion, said the guard expressionlessly. Fang Chen handed over his identity medallion. There was no fear on his face. After checking Fang Chen's identity medallion, the guard's expression changed slightly. He handed it back to Fang Chen. Guards, this person has no respect for the law. He must be severely punished for committing such a crime here. The guard's expression was incomparably solemn. Lu Tianzi was inwardly delighted. If this person violated Burial Sword City's rules, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. However, to everyone's surprise, as soon as Lu Tianzi finished speaking, the guard at the front said coldly, "Scram." At the same time, Lu Tianzi's body was sent flying and he heavily crashed into the ground. Lu Tianzi looked at the guard in disbelief. Guards, he was the one in the wrong first. Why did you attack me instead of indulging him? Asked Lu Tianzi. Do you know who he is? Asked the guard expressionlessly. His name is Fang Chen. He is the city lord of 5 Elements Sword City. The guard's aura was extremely terrifying, and it directly pressed down on Lu Tianzi and the others. What? Hearing this, Lu Tianzi's face was filled with shock and fear. He is the city lord of 5 Elements Sword City. Lu Tianzi's heart was filled with raging waves. How could such a young martial artist be the city lord of 5 Elements Sword City? Although he couldn't accept this fact, the guard's words were unquestionable. Lu Tianzi glared at Fang Chen and turned to leave. Seeing Lu Tianzi and the others leave, the guard cupped his hands towards Fang Chen and smiled. City Lord, sorry for disturbing you. I'm fine. Fang Chen nodded slightly. Actually, Fang Chen had just learned from the scholar that every city lord had certain privileges within the Burial Sword City. He was the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City, and his identity had long been recorded by Buried Sword City. The guard leader checked his identity token and knew who he was. Therefore, no matter what the cause of the incident was, the guards would not do anything to Fang Chen. At this moment, the scholar at the side had a wide smile on his face. As for He Xuelin and the others, they were a little shocked. 5 Elements Sword City's City Lord. The 4 of them were shocked. This person was so young, but he was actually the lord of a city. It was too shocking. City Lord, this must be your first time in Sword Burial City. Please come with us, the guard leader said with a smile. Fang Chen nodded and said, "Can I bring a friend?" "Of course." Hearing this, he turned to look at the scholar. The latter was also grinning from ear to ear. In the end, Fang Chen and the scholar left with the guards. The 4 geniuses of Golden Sword City looked at each other in dismay. This person is actually the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City. How shocking. The 5 Elements Sword City hasn't had a city lord for a long time. I didn't expect this person to be so young. I'm a little puzzled. Why would the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City save us? Hearing the 3 of them, Fatty Lee's eyes flickered as he muttered to himself, "Did you notice that he looks like someone?" "Who?" The 3 of them looked at Fatty Lee and asked in unison. "Jiu Jian." Fang Chen and the scholar arrived at the city lord's mansion. Sword Burial City was different from other cities. The city lord's mansion was directly under the jurisdiction of the Sword Burial Immortal Palace. And the city lord was also an important figure in the Sword Burial Immortal Palace. This time, the guard leader was bringing Fang Chen to see the city lord of the Sword Burial City. Before long, the guard leader brought Fang Chen and the scholar to a luxurious courtyard. "Young master, you can rest here," said the guard leader to the scholar. Then he turned to Fang Chen and said, "City lord, I'll take you to see our city lord." The scholar exchanged a glance with Fang Chen and then entered the luxurious courtyard. As for Fang Chen, he went to see the legendary Sword Burial City's city lord. City lord's mansion, study. The 2 old men were full of smiles. "If that kid sees the 2 of us, what kind of expression will he have?" asked the short old man with a mischievous smile. "I bet he'll definitely be surprised," said the tall old man confidently. "Do you dare bet?" The short old man clearly didn't agree with the tall old man. "Then let's bet." "What do you want to bet?" The tall old man was very confident in his guess. "Didn't you obtain an immortal burial jade before? If you lose, give it to me," said the short old man with a smile. The tall old man's expression changed and he immediately refused. "Mph, you want my immortal burial jade?" "Impossible," said the tall old man. "Aren't you very confident? You don't even dare to bet with the immortal burial jade." The short old man deliberately provoked the tall old man. "Impossible. Regardless of whether I'm confident or not, I definitely won't bet with the immortal burial jade." The tall old man shook his head with a firm attitude. Seeing this, the short old man was a little helpless and then said, "Well, if you lose, just give me a soul destruction pill." Hearing this, the tall old man agreed. While the 2 were talking, Fang Chen also came to the study. "City Lord, the city lord of the 5 Elements Sword City has been brought. Let him in." A voice came from the study. The guard leader cupped his hands to Fang Chen and then turned to leave. Without the city lord's permission, the guards were not allowed to enter the study. This was the rule of the Sword Burial City and no one dared to break it. Fang Chen gently pushed open the door and entered the study. In an instant, Fang Chen saw 2 old men with wretched smiles on their faces. "You wouldn't be the city lords of the Sword Burial City, right?" Fang Chen was a bit surprised, but his expression was still very calm. "Kid, we meet again." "Yes, the 2 of us are the city lords of the Sword Burial City." The short old man smiled. Seeing Fang Chen's calm expression, the tall old man was a bit speechless. "Kid, aren't you shocked to see the 2 of us?" asked the tall old man. Fang Chen spread his hands. "What's there to be shocked about? I've seen you before and know that you're important figures in the Sword Burial Immortal Palace. It's normal for you to be the city lords of the Sword Burial City." Hearing this, the short old man laughed heartily. As for the tall old man, he was filled with helplessness. In the end, he took out a soul destruction pill and threw it to the short old man. Seeing this, Fang Chen was a bit puzzled. While Fang Chen was lost in thought, the two old men looked at Fang Chen. "Kid, you're really something. Not only did you obtain the 5-element sword, but you also fused with the 5-element bell to become the city lord of the 5-element sword city," said the tall old man. When they had learned of this from the palace master, they had also been shocked. But in the end, they felt relieved. If he could draw out the 12th heaven tribulation, then what was the point of fusing with the 5-element bell? Furthermore, the palace master had said that this child had the highest chance of obtaining the sword burial emperor's approval. Fusing with the 5-element bell proved the palace master's words. If it was an ordinary city lord, the two old men wouldn't even bother to meet him. But Fang Chen was different. The two of them had high hopes for Fang Chen, and the palace master also favored him. "It was just a fluke," said Fang Chen. "You're the first person in the history of the sword burial city to fuse with the 5-element bell. If that counts as a fluke, then how can we still have the face to continue living?" Hearing this, Fang Chen was no longer modest. The two of them already knew Fang Chen's background. "We called you here to tell you a few things about the sword burial city," said the tall old man. "What is it?" Fang Chen's eyes flickered. "Every genius that comes to the sword burial prefecture will go to the sword burial heavenly wall," said the short old man. "Sword burial heavenly wall? What's that?" Fang Chen was a bit confused. Just what was this sword burial heavenly wall? Chapter 880. The sword burial heavenly wall was the most famous place in the sword burial province. It was also the place where the geniuses of the sword burial province gathered. Sword burial city was different from other cities. Here, the city lord mansion was the strongest overlord and governed the entire sword burial city. Within the sword burial city, there were many powerful sects. These sects had always been paying attention to the sword burial heavenly wall. As long as they discovered someone with heaven-defying potential, they would do everything they could to rope them into their sect. The sword burial heavenly wall was naturally born. The more sword scars a martial artist left behind on the sword burial heavenly wall, the stronger their talent in the sword Dao. Fang Chen finally understood after listening to the two old men's explanation. The sword burial heavenly wall was also a method to obtain the sword burial heavenly emperor's approval. With your heaven-defying potential, you should go to the sword burial heavenly wall to give it a try. The short old man smiled. "That's right. Although your cultivation is ordinary, you were able to trigger a 12th level tribulation. Your monstrous potential is simply unimaginable." As the two old men spoke, Fang Chen felt a little curious about the legendary sword burial sky wall. "Where is it?" asked Fang Chen. He wanted to give it a try. The sword burial heavenly wall recorded the most monstrous martial artists of the sword burial province's younger generation. Fang Chen also wanted to see just how strong these monstrous martial artists were. After chatting with the two city lords for a long time, Fang Chen directly settled down in the city lord mansion. The next day, he followed the scholar to the legendary sword burial heavenly wall. "Brother Fang, you're very powerful. Even the city lord mansion treats you like this." The scholar kept praising Fang Chen along the way. Fang Chen remained silent. In his mind, he kept thinking about the sword burial heavenly wall. The sword burial heavenly wall was located on the sword burial peak. This peak was very unique. It was filled with dense sword chi. No martial artist could fly to the sword burial peak. They could only walk. While climbing the mountain, Fang Chen heard many discussions about the sword burial heavenly wall. "Have you guys heard? Sichu Hong came out of seclusion yesterday. It is said that he will come to the burial sword heavenly wall to test his talent today," a martial artist said. "With Sichu Hong's potential, he will definitely be able to enter the top 10 of the sword burial heavenly wall." That's right. Sichu Hong's potential is too heaven-defying. While this group of people was discussing Sichu Hong, on the other side, there were clearly some martial artists who were dissatisfied. "Mph, Sichu Hong is nothing. Even Du Yun is here today. In front of Du Yun, even Sichu Hong is inferior." That's right, Du Yun has the potential to become number 1. Sichu Hong is no threat to Du Gu Yun. Along the way, many martial artists were discussing some outstanding geniuses. When Fang Chen heard this, he didn't have any reaction because he didn't know these geniuses at all. On the other hand, the scholar at the side was extremely shocked. I didn't expect that even Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong would come. It seems like the sword burial heaven wall is very lively today. The scholar sighed. Do you know Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong? Fang Chen asked casually. Not only have I heard of them, but in the entire sword burial city, you're probably the only one who doesn't know of them, said the scholar. When he mentioned Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong, his eyes were filled with awe and respect. Sichu Hong is the peak genius of the Sichu family in sword burial city. His potential is so great that even profound kings are shocked. The scholar said, when Sichu Hong was in the spiritual whirlpool realm, he was able to kill a warrior in the true martial realm. Now, he has reached LV6 of the true martial realm in less than a year. It is said that his real combat ability can easily defeat a warrior in LV9 of the true martial realm. If he's that powerful, could it be that he has triggered a 12th level tribulation? Asked Fang Chen softly. A 12th level tribulation? Are you crazy? Even Lu Jingyun, who is ranked number 1 in the heavenly wall, wasn't able to trigger a 12th level tribulation, said the scholar. What kind of joke was that? A 12th level tribulation was the strongest lightning tribulation of the true martial realm. It was a lightning tribulation that only existed in legends. Such a lightning tribulation was hard to come by in 10,000 years. Not to mention Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong, even Lu Jingyun, who was ranked number 1 in the sword burial heavenly wall, wasn't able to trigger a 12th level tribulation when he entered the true martial realm. In fact, being able to trigger a 9-9 lightning tribulation was already very heaven-defying. Fang Chen curled his lips when he heard that, but he didn't say anything. He had triggered a 12th level tribulation, which was why he casually asked. Unknowingly, the two of them had already reached the top of the sword burial peak. There was a jade wall at the top of the sword burial peak. There were countless sword scars on the jade wall. Each sword mark contained a vast aura of sword principle. On the flat ground in front of the jade disc, there were many cultivators sitting cross-legged, quietly cultivating. Fang Chen could clearly feel that there was a unique aura at the top of the sword burial peak. This unique aura could increase the cultivation speed of sword cultivators. Is this the sword burial heavenly wall? Said Fang Chen as he stared at the jade wall. His heart was shaken. The sword burial heavenly wall was too magical. Thump. The golden heart rapidly throbbed at this moment, as if it had sensed the aura of the sword burial heavenly wall. It's indeed unusual, said Fang Chen inwardly. However, there was a commotion in front of the jade wall at this moment. Shortly after, a white-clothed figure appeared. Shortly after, the crowd's shouts could be heard. It's Sichu Hong. He really appeared. Sichu Hong has been in seclusion for so long. Did he really make a breakthrough? Last time, Sichu Hong left behind 70 sword scars on the sword burial heavenly wall. I wonder if he can improve this time. Many whispers could be heard. Fang Chen also stared at Sichu Hong with interest. Sichu Hong had a gentle smile on his face, and his entire body was emitting a powerful sword aura. Just as everyone was discussing, Sichu Hong walked to the front of the jade wall. The jade disc was 10 meters tall, and Sichu Hong's figure was small and skinny in front of it. However, this couldn't cover up Sichu Hong's brilliance. On the side of the jade wall was a stone tablet. This was a ranking list. There were many small words on the list. As long as you could leave behind a sword scar on the sword burial heavenly wall, you could enter the list. Fang Chen could clearly see that Sichu Hong's name was on the 10th place. Only by leaving behind 70 sword scars can you be ranked 10th, muttered Fang Chen to himself. Brother Fang, there's something you don't know, but the sword burial heavenly wall is extremely hard. Wanting to leave a sword scar on it is too difficult, explained the scholar. Even Lu Jingyun, who is ranked first, only left behind 93 sword scars. Just as the scholar was speaking, Sichu Hong attacked. Boundless sword chi surged out of Sichu Hong's body, and then a long sword appeared in his hand. Then, Sichu Hong's wrist shook, and the long sword in his hand constantly changed. Seeing this, Fang Chen's expression changed slightly. As expected of a genius sword cultivator from the sword burial city. He's actually able to use his sword to such a level, said Fang Chen inwardly. According to the Sword Dao Quintessence's primary scroll, Sichu Hong was comparable to someone at the 5th step of the Sword Dao. At this time, Fang Chen finally understood why the Sword Burial Prefecture's sword cultivators were so powerful. Whoosh! The long sword in Sichu Hong's hand constantly changed. In the end, a sword light that couldn't be seen with the naked eye shot toward the sword burial heavenly wall. Buzz! A peculiar sound came from the sword burial heavenly wall. Then, a vast amount of sword chi spread out. Then, Sichu Hong put away his sword and looked at the sword burial sky wall with a smile on his face. At this time, the sword chi on the sword burial heavenly wall gradually disappeared. Everyone looked over and saw that the sword burial heavenly wall was now covered in sword scars. How many sword scars? This was the question everyone was most concerned about. In the blink of an eye, everyone knew. There were 80 sword scars. There were 10 more sword scars than last time. The entire sword burial peak was in an uproar. Countless cultivators looked at Sichu Hong in shock. He's too powerful. He actually created 80 sword scars. If I had half of his potential, I wouldn't have any regrets even if I died. Sichu Hong's ranking is already in the top 5. Many cultivators said one after another. Sichu Hong was quite satisfied with his result. 5th. Chapter 881. Before Sichu Hong, there were 4 other names. It won't be long before I surpass you, said Sichu Hong softly. At this moment, a hearty laugh rang out. Sichu Hong, I didn't expect you to come so early. As soon as he finished speaking, a black-robed man arrived at the burial sword peak. Du Gu Yun had arrived. Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong were both rising stars. Their potential was publicly recognized as monstrous. Du Gu Yun was different from Sichu Hong. He came from a large sect and had received the full support of the sect. Last time, Du Gu Yun had created 75 sword scars on the burial sword heavenly wall, ranking 7th. But this time, he had made a comeback. He was determined to break his own record. Du Gu Yun. Experts were lonely. To be able to step on the path to the peak, having a few opponents was something to be gratified about. Although Sichu Hong and Du Gu Yun were competitors, the two of them were very close to each other. Sichu Hong, you've improved quite a bit during this time, said Du Gu Yun with a grin. You're not bad either, said Sichu Hong. As expected, Du Gu Yun didn't waste any words. He directly stepped forward and began to display his sword arts. His exquisite sword arts made Fang Chen sigh with emotion. In the end, when Du Gu Yun put away his sword, 84 sword scars had appeared on the burial sword heavenly wall. 84 sword scars ranked 4th. This was Du Gu Yun's result. The entire burial sword peak was in an uproar once more. Sichu Hong was very calm about this. It seemed he had already expected this result. Only 84 sword scars. Du Gu Yun looked at the sword scars on the burial sword heavenly wall and said helplessly. The entire burial sword city was overshadowed by Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong's radiance. All the other martial artists were overshadowed. Not long after, Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong left together. In their eyes, the other martial artists weren't worthy of their attention. After the two of them left, there were still a few martial artists who tried to break through the burial sword heavenly wall. But their results weren't very good. Brother Fang, go try it, whispered the scholar as he glanced at Fang Chen. Aren't you going? Fang Chen asked. The scholar chuckled and arrived in front of the sword burial sky wall ahead of Fang Chen. Seeing an unfamiliar face, the surrounding cultivators all revealed looks of disdain. Another new warrior. Someone in the crowd said. It was abnormally difficult for new martial artists to leave behind sword scars on the sword burial heavenly wall. However, the scholar ignored the crowd and brandished the long sword in his hand. Suddenly, a vast amount of sword chi surged out. Swoosh, an exquisite and peerless sword technique was displayed. The long sword in his hand directly bombarded the sword burial sky wall. Suddenly, everyone heard the sound of metal clashing. After the sword chi dissipated, some sword marks shockingly appeared on the sword burial heavenly wall. What? A newcomer managed to leave behind a sword mark on the burial sword heavenly wall? Quick, count how many sword scars there are. Many martial artists scanned the sword burial sky wall with their souls and instantly discovered the sword mark left behind by the scholar. Soon after, their eyes were filled with shock. Heavens, a newcomer who came to the sword burial sky wall for the first time actually managed to leave behind 50 sword scars. Is he the next Lu Jingyun? Cried out a martial artist. 50 sword scars was considered a high level in the sword burial prefecture. On the ranking list, the scholar was ranked 60th. There were countless sword cultivators in the sword burial prefecture. To be able to enter the top 100 was enough to see the scholar's talent in the sword Dao. Those martial artists who had originally ridiculed the scholar all changed their attitudes. This was the first time he had left behind 50 sword scars on the sword burial sky wall. His potential was shocking. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he could compare to Sichu Hong and Du Gu Yun. At this time, many martial artists came to befriend the scholar. As for the scholar, he ignored them and walked in front of Fang Chen. He grinned. "Brother Fang, it's your turn." Fang Chen smiled and walked in front of the sword burial sky wall. Seeing that it was yet another newcomer, everyone was flabbergasted. Just what was going on today? Sichu Hong and Du Gu Yun had come before, but now even a newcomer was so stunning. "There seems to be a vast amount of sword chi within the sword burial sky wall," muttered Fang Chen. The closer he got to the sword burial sky wall, the faster Fang Chen discovered that the golden heart was beating. Furthermore, the golden heart was absorbing the sword chi within the sword burial sky wall. This, Fang Chen was a bit puzzled, but he still took out the hidden star sword. Boom! Sword intent erupted. Fang Chen used the 5 elements sword art. A 5-colored sword blade instantly appeared and smashed into the sword burial sky wall. Dong! When the 5-colored sword blade smashed into the sword burial sky wall, the entire sword burial peak trembled. The sword burial sky wall was filled with sword chi. Countless sword scars appeared on the sword burial sky wall. At the same time, a strange aura was emitted from the golden heart. It drilled into the 5-colored sword blade, causing the power of the 5-colored sword blade to become incomparably powerful. At this moment, Fang Chen seemed to have entered an ethereal state. His mind was filled with the aura of sword Dao. As for himself, it was as if he was in a vast sea of sword Dao. The sword Dao is broad and profound. In an instant, Fang Chen's comprehension of sword Dao became deeper and deeper. It was also at this moment that the sword burial sky wall emitted a thumping sound, shaking the entire sword burial province. Inside the sword burial immortal palace, the tall and short old man was reporting to the palace master about Fang Chen. "Palace master, Fang Chen is really surprising. He actually became the city lord of the 5-element sword city in such a short time," said the short old man with a smile. "This child's potential is the best I have ever seen. I have already sent him to the sword burial sky wall. Perhaps he can surpass Lu Jingyun in one fell swoop," said the tall old man. The palace master nodded slightly. His gaze pierced through the clouds as if he could see the scene of the sword burial sky wall. "He is currently attacking the sword burial sky wall," said the palace master. However, as soon as the palace master finished speaking, the entire sword burial prefecture began to tremble. That was especially true of the sword burial peak. Countless cultivators were shocked. Just what had happened? Why had the sword burial peak suddenly begun to tremble? "Palace master, what is it?" asked the tall old man hastily. The palace master jumped to his feet. His face was filled with an excited smile. 99 sword scars, muttered the palace master to himself. In the next moment, he vanished. The 2 old men carefully digested the palace master's words. Their expressions immediately changed. The palace master said 99 sword scars. Could it be that he's talking about Fang Chen? To be able to shake the entire sword burial province, could it be that Fang Chen really managed to create 99 sword scars? As they spoke, the 2 old men also vanished. At this moment, on the burial sword peak, Fang Chen put away the hidden star sword. His body was surrounded by wild sword chi. After their shock, many cultivators looked at the sword burial sky wall. What they saw became the deepest memory in their hearts. 99 sword scars. Wasn't this something that only existed in legends? It had actually appeared. The sword burial sky wall had existed since ancient times. The more sword scars one left on the sword burial sky wall, the more tyrannical one's talent in the sword Tao would be. It was rumored that anyone who could leave behind 99 sword scars would be able to enter the legendary sword burial immortal palace in the future. The last person who had managed to create 99 sword scars was the current palace master of the immortal palace. Now, 99 sword scars had appeared once more. Finally, after a moment of deathly silence, a cultivator cried out. 99 sword scars? Am I seeing things? Heavens, who is he? How can he create 99 sword scars? His potential is comparable to the palace master of the immortal palace. He's too monstrous. Even Lu Jingyun isn't worth mentioning in front of him. The palace master of the immortal palace stood calmly above the clouds, flanked by two old men. Palace master, this child's potential is so heaven-defying. Can he compare to you back then? Asked the short old man. Back then, palace master, you also created 99 sword scars, shocking the entire sword burial province. I didn't expect that after so many years, there would be someone from the younger generation who could reach such a level. It's too incredible. The tall man sighed. The palace master of the immortal palace looked calm, but his eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. Chapter 882. Back then, he had only managed to create 99 sword scars. But now, although Fang Chen had also created 99 sword scars, he had done it much more easily than back then. Most importantly, he had discovered some small cracks on the sword burial heavenly wall. He had created 99 sword scars with one sword strike and had almost caused a crack to appear in the sword burial heavenly wall. That kind of potential was much greater than his own back then. A 12th level tribulation cultivator truly lives up to his reputation, said the palace master after a long time. Then he prepared to leave. Palace master, Fang Chen's actions will definitely cause dissatisfaction among some cultivators, said the short old man. The palace lord's figure disappeared, leaving behind a sentence. Let him deal with it himself. The palace master's actions were meant to temper Fang Chen. After everyone on the burial sword peak recovered from their shock, the news spread like a whirlwind through the entire burial sword city. Martialists started to emerge one after another in some parts of the burial sword city. What? Someone managed to create 99 sword scars? Just who is it that has surpassed Lu Jingyun? 99 sword scars. For a time, countless cultivators at the top of the rankings began to appear. One figure after another began to climb up the sword burial peak. The first to arrive was the 10th ranked expert. But because of Sichu Hong and Fang Chen, his name had dropped to 12th. Who created 99 sword scars? Asked the 10th ranked expert. When the crowd heard this, they quickly opened up a path. The 10th strongest person looked at Fang Chen. You created 99 sword scars? Fang Chen nodded in response. That person stared at Fang Chen, his heart trembling slightly. Not long after, the top 10 cultivators on the rankings began to appear. Even Sichu Hong and Dugu Yun, who had just left, appeared once more. This brat managed to create 99 sword scars. Sichu Hong and Dugu Yun were both shocked. Just at this moment, two figures appeared, causing a commotion. Third-ranked Tuoba Yulong and second-ranked Liu Wudao. The appearance of these two people caused a commotion. Someone surpassed Lu Jingyun and became the number one expert on the buried sword peak, said Tuoba Yulong as soon as he reached the top. I didn't expect that someone could surpass Lu Jingyun. I want to see who this person is. As they spoke, the two of them turned to look at Fang Chen. For a time, the entire sword burial skywall was filled with wind and clouds. Countless martialists were looking at Fang Chen. Fang Chen suddenly became the center of attention. However, as the crowd glanced at Fang Chen, a soaring aura instantly filled the place. Liu Wudao and Tuoba Yulong glanced at each other, then looked into the distance. Lu Jingyun, the number one expert on the list, had appeared. Who was it that created 99 sword scars? Asked Lu Jingyun from atop the burial sword peak. Lu Jingyun's aura was extremely dense. Even Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao didn't dare to fight him. Lu Jingyun, you've become even stronger, Liu Wudao said. Your cultivation base broke through, asked Tuoba Yulong. The other experts also looked at Lu Jingyun. Lu Jingyun was the number one genius of Buried Sword City. He wasn't very old, but his cultivation base had reached the heaven-defying 8th level of the true martial realm. Now that he had appeared, did that mean his cultivation base had reached the 9th level of the true martial realm? As expected, Lu Jingyun didn't hide anything. He directly said, I was just lucky to break through. Crash. The entire Buried Sword Peak was in an uproar. Countless martialists were shocked. Lu Jingyun's cultivation base had actually reached the 9th level of the true martial realm. He was simply too monstrous. Lu Jingyun ignored the crowd's discussion and turned to Fang Chen. You were the one who created 99 sword scars? Fang Chen nodded. He could feel the pressure coming from Lu Jingyun. Too weak, said Lu Jingyun. Fang Chen's 99 sword scars only represented his heaven-defying potential, but his strength was incomparably weak. Your potential is heaven-defying. You created 99 sword scars, but your strength is very weak, said Lu Jingyun. Fang Chen stared at Lu Jingyun and said, You have cultivated longer than me and have more resources than me. If we were at the same level, I wouldn't be afraid of you. Hearing this, the crowd secretly admired Fang Chen's courage. He was the first person who dared to speak to Lu Jingyun like this. If we were at the same level, you wouldn't be afraid of me. Hearing this, Lu Jingyun smiled. Back then, he had relied on a pair of iron fists and a long sword to establish his current status. Lu Jingyun was invincible in the same level. Potential doesn't represent cultivation base. Lu Jingyun emphasized again. After saying this, Lu Jingyun thought for a moment and said, I'll give you 3 years. After 3 years, I hope you can fight with me. In an instant, Fang Chen's mind was filled with an invincible belief. He clenched his fists and stared at Lu Jingyun. He said word by word, I don't need 3 years. In 1 year, I have the confidence to defeat you. Fang Chen's words were too arrogant for the crowd. Even Lu Jingyun stopped in his tracks and carefully sized up Fang Chen. Are you sure you can fight with me in a year? Asked Lu Jingyun. Fang Chen nodded heavily. At this moment, the golden heart was beating rapidly, giving Fang Chen great confidence. All right, in a year, no matter what your cultivation base is, I will fight with you. After saying this, Lu Jingyun left the burial sword peak. He had come this time to see the genius who could create 99 sword scars. However, after seeing it, he was a little disappointed. This person relied on his heaven-defying potential and was incomparably arrogant. It was ridiculous to think that he could defeat him in a year. In the eyes of Tuoba Yulong and the others, Fang Chen's words were incomparably laughable. They simply didn't take it seriously. After seeing a cultivator with 99 sword scars, they all began to challenge each other. Liu Wudao, in a year, Lu Jingyun will fight here. I also formally challenge you to a battle. 1 year from today, we will fight on the Burial Sword Peak. Among the younger generation of Burial Sword City, the only ones who could firmly suppress Tuoba Yulong were Liu Wudao and Lu Jingyun. There was no need to say anything about Lu Jingyun. Tuoba Yulong didn't even have the courage to challenge him. However, he was very confident in facing Liu Wudao. All right, we will fight here in a year. Liu Wudao laughed heartily. Dugu Yun, in a year, you and I will also fight here, said Sichu Hong. Dugu Yun nodded and floated away. Countless warriors on the Burial Sword Peak were extremely excited about the battle between these few people. Normally, it wasn't easy to see these geniuses, but in a year, they would all fight here. Just thinking about such a grand occasion made them incomparably excited. The next few battles were also very important, but they weren't as shocking as Tuoba Yulong and the others. As for the battle between Lu Jingyun and Fang Chen, everyone only treated it as a joke. What kind of joke was that? No one believed that Lu Jingyun could defeat Lu Jingyun in a year. No, to be exact, There was only one person who believed it, and that was the palace master of the Sword Burial Immortal Palace. The entire Burial Sword City was crazily spreading the news of Fang Chen's 99 sword scars and his battle with Lu Jingyun. However, the Sword Burial Immortal Palace was incomparably quiet. After hearing the news, the palace master's face had a trace of a smile. Palace master, Fang Chen is a little reckless. 1 year isn't enough for him to stand shoulder to shoulder with Lu Jingyun, said the tall old man. Yeah, Lu Jingyun has already reached the 9th level of the true martial realm. In a year, he might even enter the profound king realm, said the short old man. The two of them weren't optimistic about Fang Chen either. Although Fang Chen was a genius who hadn't matured was nothing to be afraid of. Lu Jingyun had already matured. Lu Jingyun's potential is very good. At such a young age, his cultivation has already reached the 9th level of the true martial realm. If he can really reach the profound king realm in a year, he will be the youngest profound king realm martial artist in the Sword Burial Prefecture, said the palace master. However, Fang Chen's potential is far more heaven-defying than you can imagine. The palace master recalled the situation of the Sword Burial Heavenly Wall and was incomparably excited. Perhaps, Fang Chen can create a miracle. He triggered the 12th level tribulation, comprehended the true intent of the void, and created 99 sword scars in the Sword Burial Heavenly Wall. Chapter 883. Fang Chen had only just arrived in Sword Burial City, but he had already caused such a huge commotion. Of course, other than the palace master of the Sword Burial Immortal Palace and the 2 city lords of Sword Burial City, no one knew that Fang Chen was the one who had triggered the 12th layer tribulation. The Sword Burial Immortal Palace greatly valued Fang Chen. In a certain courtyard of the city lord's mansion, the scholar was looking at Fang Chen in shock. Although it had already been several days, his shock still hadn't dissipated. Brother Fang, the scholar was shocked, but he couldn't say anything. Fang Chen didn't say anything. He was flipping through a booklet about Sword Burial City. This booklet had a very detailed description. Suddenly, Fang Chen's gaze locked onto a certain page of the booklet. Sword art competition? Fang Chen looked at this page and felt a little puzzled. The title of this page was called Sword Art Competition. Seeing Fang Chen's puzzlement, the scholar looked over and said, Brother Fang, you wouldn't be thinking of going here, right? You know about sword art competition? Of course I do. There's probably no one in Sword Burial City who doesn't know about it. The scholar felt a bit helpless. Could it be that this fellow only had cultivation in his head? Then the scholar began to explain the sword art competition to Fang Chen. This so-called sword art competition was actually just a way to sharpen one's sword arts. There was a sword art plaza in Sword Burial City. There was a martial stage in this plaza. Martial artists who wanted to sharpen their sword arts could go on the stage. On the martial stage, they would only use their sword arts to fight. There was a very powerful seal on the martial stage. As long as you stood on the martial stage, your spiritual chi would be sealed and you wouldn't be able to use it. It was a pure sword art competition. After Fang Chen finished listening, his interest was piqued. Let's go take a look. Fang Chen raised his head. All right. The scholar immediately agreed. The two of them soon arrived at the Sword Art Plaza. Fang Chen was now a famous person in Sword Burial City. As soon as he arrived, he was recognized. Isn't this person Fang Chen? Who is Fang Chen? You don't even know Fang Chen? The martial artist who blasted out 99 sword scars in the Sword Burial Heavenly Wall? There was a commotion in the swordsmanship square. All the cultivators' gazes landed on Fang Chen. Fang Chen and the scholar arrived at the swordsmanship square. Bang on the martial arts practice platform, 2 warriors were exchanging swordsmanship. Just as Fang Chen arrived, one warrior was suddenly sent flying by the other. The warrior standing on the martial arts practice platform happened to see Fang Chen. Isn't this our Burial Sword City's genius? How about it? Do you want to give it a try? The burly man grinned as he held a sword in his hand. Fang Chen nodded and stepped onto the stage. Fang Chen, although you blasted out 99 sword scars in the Sword Burial Heavenly Wall, you may not be able to win this swordsmanship duel. The burly man grinned. Fang Chen took out the star-hidden sword and found that the spirit chi was sealed. "Take this." The burly man growled as he waved the long sword in his hand. His swordsmanship was very exquisite. However, Fang Chen stood motionless. When the long sword in the burly man's hand was about to touch him, he suddenly moved. The star-hidden sword stabbed at the burly man in a strange posture, directly forcing the burly man to retreat. At the same time, Fang Chen displayed the five-element sword technique. Although he did not have the support of spirit chi, with Fang Chen's current strength, the power unleashed was abnormally strong. Bang bang bang! In one exchange, the burly man was sent flying by Fang Chen. Seeing this, all the martial artists in the Sword Arts Plaza exclaimed in surprise. Worthy of being the #1 powerhouse on the Sword Burial Heavenly Wall list. This exquisite swordsmanship is really powerful. A martial artist cried out. In the following time, Fang Chen had been using his swordsmanship to fight other powerhouses. Unknowingly, it was already getting late. After Fang Chen defeated the last martial artist, he returned to the City Lord Mansion with the scholar. Today's battle made Fang Chen's reputation soar again. He defeated 18 martial artists in a row, and it was with pure swordsmanship. Only at this time did everyone know that Fang Chen not only had heaven-defying potential, but his swordsmanship was also so superb. When he returned that night, Fang Chen entered a state of epiphany. After waking up, his sword soul strengthened a lot. Fang Chen was very happy. If it continued like this, sword soul would definitely evolve into sword heart. In the next few days, Fang Chen would go to the Sword Arts Plaza every day. However, very few people wanted to challenge him. Gradually, the number of martial artists who challenged Fang Chen became fewer and fewer. Until 5 days later, Fang Chen stood on the martial arts stage, but no martial artist came to challenge him. This made Fang Chen very speechless. "No one," Fang Chen said to himself. On the Sword Arts Plaza, many martial artists shook their heads. Fang Chen's swordsmanship was very magical, and fierce and overbearing. They were not Fang Chen's opponents. However, just as Fang Chen was waiting for a challenger, suddenly there was a noise on the Sword Arts Plaza. Fang Chen raised his head and looked over. He recognized the person at a glance. It was the original 10th powerhouse on the Sword Burial Heavenly Wall list. "Fang Chen, let me fight you." This person was very jealous of Fang Chen's potential. He heard that Fang Chen was honing his swordsmanship at the Sword Arts Plaza and specially came to challenge Fang Chen. "Fang Chen, your potential is heaven-defying, but in terms of swordsmanship, I am the strongest." After speaking, the 10th powerhouse instantly displayed his swordsmanship. Crash! Countless streaks of sword chi turned into raindrops in the sky. These raindrops contained a vast amount of sword chi. What swordsmanship is this? Fang Chen was a little puzzled. It was the first time he had seen this swordsmanship. Many cultivators below also exclaimed in surprise. Drizzle swordsmanship. The 10th powerhouse had once obtained an ancient sword Dao inheritance in an ancient relic and then cultivated the drizzle swordsmanship. Therefore, his strength also skyrocketed. When the drizzle swordsmanship was displayed, it was as if the sky was full of raindrops. It was very frightening. When the 10th powerhouse displayed the drizzle swordsmanship, Fang Chen clearly felt that the golden heart in his body was beating rapidly, absorbing the aura of the drizzle swordsmanship around him. After discovering this scene, Fang Chen's eyes flickered. In an instant, the two of them fought. The battle between the two of them was very intense. This Fang Chen's swordsmanship is so exquisite. After fighting for a quarter of an hour, the 10th powerhouse secretly thought to himself. At this time, Fang Chen nodded with satisfaction. The golden heart had been fully absorbed, so the battle could be over. "Let's end this," Fang Chen shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, countless sword lights burst out from the hidden star sword in his hand, stabbing at the 10th powerhouse from tricky angles. Bang! Bang! Although the 10th powerhouse desperately tried to resist, he was still blasted away. At this time, the 10th powerhouse realized that Fang Chen had been hiding his strength. The 10th powerhouse's face kept changing. Finally, he cupped his hands to Fang Chen and said in a deep voice, "I accept my defeat." After the 10th powerhouse left, There was an uproar in the swordsmanship square. Even the 10th powerhouse was defeated. Was Fang Chen's swordsmanship that strong? After the 10th powerhouse left, Sichu Hong appeared not long after. He was in the top 10 of the buried sword Skywall list. After hearing that the 10th powerhouse had been defeated, Sichu Hong wanted to see Fang Chen's swordsmanship. After a quarter of an hour, Sichu Hong's defeat caused a great uproar. Looking at Sichu Hong's back, Fang Chen's face showed a trace of a smile. If he could use spiritual qi, he might not be Sichu Hong's opponent. But with just his swordsmanship, he was not afraid of Sichu Hong. The reason why the fierce battle lasted for a quarter of an hour was because the Golden Heart was absorbing Sichu Hong's sword qi. I, Du Gu Yun, will fight you. After Sichu Hong left, Du Gu Yun came. After a quarter of an hour, Du Gu Yun was also defeated. After defeating Du Gu Yun and Sichu Hong, Fang Chen's reputation soared. The entire buried sword city was talking about Fang Chen's name. After Du Gu Yun left, Fang Chen waited for a while. When no one came again, he returned to the city lord's mansion. The news about Fang Chen's swordsmanship spread throughout the buried sword city. At a certain moment, Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao said that they wanted to challenge Fang Chen's swordsmanship. This news also caused a great uproar. After Fang Chen heard it, he immediately responded that he was ready to fight at any time. In the buried sword Immortal Palace, the palace master smiled when he heard the two old men's report. This kid was born to cultivate the way of the sword. After a long time, the palace master of the Immortal Palace grinned. Fang Chen's talent in the sword Dao was too amazing. The more he heard about Fang Chen's deeds, the more the palace master was sure that Fang Chen was the most likely genius to be recognized by the buried sword emperor in the history of the buried sword city. Therefore, no matter what, he had to fully support Fang Chen. Even Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao can't help it. This kid's swordsmanship is really high, said the short old man. Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao will fight tomorrow. I wonder if they can defeat this kid, said the tall old man. The two of them shouldn't be a match for Fang Chen, said the palace master slowly. Only he knew that Fang Chen's swordsmanship had already reached the Divine Connection realm. The Divine Connection realm was the highest level of swordsmanship. Whether a cultivator could cultivate their swordsmanship to the Divine Connection realm required great talent and all kinds of opportunities. It had to be said that Fang Chen's appearance had shocked the palace master of the buried sword Immortal Palace. Palace master, why are you so sure? Asked the two old men. The Divine Connection realm. When the palace master of the sword burying Immortal Palace said those words, the expressions of the two old men changed drastically. The buried sword Immortal Palace stood aloof in the buried sword city, but they were always paying attention to Fang Chen's every move. The entire buried sword province had become restless because of Fang Chen's arrival. Chapter 884. The next day, Fang Chen arrived at the swordsmanship plaza as promised. His swordsmanship was constantly improving through the duels. Most importantly, the Golden Heart was undergoing a transformation. Every time the Golden Heart transformed, it would bring great benefits to Fang Chen. Fang Chen was looking forward to this transformation. The swordsmanship plaza was already packed with people. Even some of the older generation true martial experts had come out of seclusion to watch the battle between Fang Chen, Liu Wudao, and Tuoba Yulong. Although Fang Chen's swordsmanship was exquisite beyond compare, many cultivators still believed that Liu Wudao and Tuoba Yulong would be able to end Fang Chen's legend. When Fang Chen arrived, the entire swordsmanship plaza was in an uproar. Countless gazes looked at Fang Chen. His Fang Chen, the genius who blasted out 99 sword scars on the sword burial sky rampart. The youngest city lord in the history of the 5 elements sword city. This kid's bearing is extraordinary. No wonder his swordsmanship is so powerful. Although Fang Chen might not be able to defeat Liu Wudao and Tuoba Yulong in the upcoming duels, no one was stingy with their praise for Fang Chen. All the cultivators were praising Fang Chen. It was truly extraordinary for such a young cultivator to have such high achievements. Most importantly, this person's identity was extraordinary. He was the current city lord of the 5 elements sword city. Just this identity alone was enough to make countless cultivators revere him. Fang Chen stood on the stage, waiting for Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao to arrive. Before long, Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao arrived together. Fang Chen, you're early. Tuoba Yulong grinned. Liu Wudao looked at Fang Chen expressionlessly. Which one of you will go first? Asked Fang Chen with a nod. Tuoba Yulong and Liu Wudao were both surprised when they heard this. Soon after, Tuoba Yulong roared with laughter, "It doesn't matter which of us goes first. We'll end your victory." Tuoba Yulong's meaning was obvious. Either of them could defeat Fang Chen with pure sword skills. Fang Chen didn't say anything. Anything he said now would be superfluous. He would only know after the battle. Indeed, when Tuoba Yulong saw this, he leaped up and stood on the martial arts stage. "Fang Chen, I'm very impressed by your potential, but swordsmanship isn't determined by potential alone." Tuoba Yulong looked at Fang Chen and said in a deep voice. The next moment, a sword appeared in Tuoba Yulong's hand. Then, Tuoba Yulong unleashed an exquisite swordsmanship. His wrist trembled slightly and the body of the sword vibrated continuously. Sword shadows instantly appeared and hovered in front of Tuoba Yulong. At the same time, Tuoba Yulong roared and controlled the sword shadows to attack Fang Chen. 5 Elemental Swordsmanship. Fang Chen's attainments in swordsmanship were extraordinary. He wasn't at a disadvantage in the battle against Tuoba Yulong. The battle between the two instantly entered a white-hot stage. 3 minutes later, Liu Wudao, who was below the martial arts practice stage, revealed an astonished expression within his eyes. How can this kid's swordsmanship be so strong? Originally, Liu Wudao had thought that Tuoba Yulong would be able to defeat him without him making a move. He knew very well that Tuoba Yulong's swordsmanship was only a step away from reaching the divine realm. Among the younger generation of the Sword Burial Prefecture, apart from Liu Wudao and Lu Jingyun, no one was his match. But now, Tuoba Yulong's swordsmanship was actually unable to suppress Fang Chen. After observing for a long time, Liu Wudao shook his head slightly. He had underestimated Fang Chen's swordsmanship. Liu Wudao really couldn't imagine how exactly Fang Chen had cultivated. A martialist who wasn't even 30 years old had at most cultivated for a dozen years. There was only one explanation for being able to cultivate to such a level. His potential was too heaven-defying. He was born to be a sword cultivator. On the martial arts stage, the more intense the battle became, the more astonished Tuoba Yulong became. His opponent was using the 5 elemental swordsmanship, while his was clearly a little stronger than the 5 elemental swordsmanship. However, despite having the advantage in terms of swordsmanship, he was actually unable to suppress Fang Chen. The two of them fought intensely for a quarter of an hour. Fang Chen was still able to withstand Tuoba Yulong's swordsmanship with ease. This made the latter feel very speechless. Ha! At a certain moment, Tuoba Yulong shouted loudly. Suddenly, the number of sword silhouettes around him increased to 108. Then, those sword silhouettes fused together to form an enormous sword silhouette. This huge sword shadow contained Tuoba Yulong's highest understanding of swordsmanship. It was also his most powerful sword. Upon seeing this, Fang Chen's eyes flickered and he finally stopped hiding. It's time to end this. Originally, Fang Chen had wanted to stall for time and let the Golden Heart continue to absorb the aura of Tuoba Yulong's swordsmanship. However, it seemed like the battle would have to end prematurely. Swoosh! The hidden star sword in Fang Chen's hand suddenly drew a strange trajectory. In the next moment, a majestic aura surged from his sword. This scene made all the martialists on the martial arts stage turn pale with fright. Heavens! What kind of swordsmanship is this? Even Liu Wudao, who was standing in front of the martial arts practice stage, trembled. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Divine swordsmanship. Liu Wudao finally discovered that Fang Chen's swordsmanship had actually reached the divine level. It was no wonder that Tuoba Yulong couldn't suppress him. It turned out that Luo Yunyang had been hiding his strength all this time and had only erupted with his full strength now. Thinking of this, Liu Wudao looked at Fang Chen and sighed. Tuoba Yulong was going to lose. Sure enough, as soon as Liu Wudao's voice fell, a loud sound rang out. Immediately after, Tuoba Yulong's body was sent flying. The sword art stage was dead silent. All the martialists stared blankly at Fang Chen on the martial arts stage. Was he a god? Why was he so powerful? Fang Chen held the hidden star sword in his hand and looked at Liu Wudao as if he was hinting that it was his turn. Liu Wudao took a step forward and stared at Fang Chen. I really didn't expect that there would be someone among the younger generation who could cultivate swordsmanship to the divine level. This Liu admires you. Among the younger generation, there was almost no one besides Lu Jingyun who could earn his admiration. Now, there was one more person, and that was Fang Chen. The divine level of swordsmanship. Everyone in the square was shocked when they heard this. Even the true martial realm experts of the older generation exclaimed in surprise. The divine level of swordsmanship was the highest level of swordsmanship. Only those monstrous geniuses could cultivate their swordsmanship to the divine level. At this moment, all the martialists were looking at Fang Chen with eyes full of respect. Hearing Liu Wudao's words, Fang Chen felt a little regretful. It seemed like the golden heart couldn't continue absorbing the sword aura. Liu Wudao had said that his swordsmanship had reached the divine level. Perhaps no one would dare to challenge him anymore. However, just as Fang Chen was about to give up, Liu Wudao spoke again. This Liu has studied the sword Dao for so many years, and I have always wanted to cultivate my swordsmanship to the divine level. Unfortunately, I am only one step away. Liu Wudao said slowly, I hope that Brother Fang can fight with me with all his strength and let me experience the wonders of the divine level of swordsmanship. Sure. Fang Chen grinned and agreed immediately. Liu Wudao stood on the martial arts stage, and the square was silent. Crash. Liu Wudao knew that he was no match for Fang Chen in a duel of swordsmanship, so he made the first move. Bang! Bang! In the blink of an eye, a colorful battle broke out on the martial arts stage. Both of their swordsmanship had reached the pinnacle level, and the duel was exceptionally exciting. Fang Chen was shocked as he fought. Although Liu Wudao's swordsmanship hadn't reached the divine level, it was very close. It would be difficult to defeat Liu Wudao. However, Liu Wudao became braver as he fought. Feeling the aura of the divine level of swordsmanship, his heart was filled with joy. At the same time, a door seemed to have opened in his mind, and he seemed to have touched the threshold of the divine level of swordsmanship. In the clouds in the void, the tall and short old men were quietly watching the scene. The divine level of swordsmanship. It's too heaven-defying for someone of the younger generation to have such achievements, the tall old man said. The short old man nodded slightly. Back in the ancient sword continent, this kid wasn't so outstanding.